On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight, thorough black talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From Brother Tad to Sister Kate, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcia brings the heat, Brother Blacksmith keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral line. Thursday nights, the world will see Black Power Media on the spree. Facebook, YouTube, all aligned, breaking free from everybody. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral line. Ancestral line.
Good evening, family. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's be honest about what's happening now. Foundational Black Americans are having conversations about delineation, lineage, and identifying ourselves. And somehow, every time we do, people who are not of the lineage show up and argue about it with foundational Black Americans. They jump in the chats, they jump on the panels, and they try to tell FBA who we are. So the real question today is, why are some people so determined to debate an identity that doesn't belong to them? This is Thorough Black Talk, Worldview. Let's with you tonight. So, welcome to another edition of Thorough Black Talk Worldview, and I hope each and every one of you are ready to rock out with us. Tonight, it's about to go down. Were you able to hear that intro? Was everybody able to hear that or no? Yes, no? All right, that means I gotta read it again. So, let's be honest about what's happening right now. Foundational Black Americans are having conversations about delineation, lineage, and identifying ourselves. And somehow, every time we do, people who are not foundational Black Americans show up to argue about it. They jump in the chats, they jump on the panels, they have live conversations, and they try to tell FBA who we are. So the real question today is, why are some people so determined to debate an identity that doesn't belong to them? So very, very interesting topic tonight, because, you know, as this delineation movement continues to grow, it is bringing out of the woodworks some of any and everybody to have conversations about us without us. So we're going to get into all of that tonight. Brother Black, let me know when you are ready. Shout out to Sister Tanisha. Hope all is well with you. Thanks for rocking out with us every week, fam. We like it. We love it. Yes, indeed, Sister Joyce. Brother Monty, Suffolk County, on the check-in. What's happening? We know our Sister Brooke is about to come through and lay them flames, baby. She about to lay them flame. Sister Farnessa on the check-in. Alabama in here heavy as usual. Glad to have you rocking out with us as you often do, sis, and continue to hold us down. We definitely appreciate that. Sister Aruba 927, Diamond TV, Mars in the building. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? It's about to get heavy. Do the Knowledge Radio very own Knowledge Born Allah on the check-in. What's happening, bro? What's happening? What's happening? It's gonna get heavy tonight. It's gonna get heavy. I don't know if y'all seen. Have you seen that conversation with Joy Reid? What's his name? Godfrey and Akbar, the former NFL player. I don't know anything about NFL, so y'all can educate me on, what he did or what position he played. I have no idea. I don't watch football at all, so I'll trust y'all. Whatever y'all say. Aunt Marie, Uncle Jess on the check-in. Brownsville finest in the building. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Big Russ, the warrior, Philly on the check-in. What's good, fam? What's good? What's good? What's good? We're going to get into it heavy tonight. Brother Black, are you ready? I'm not sure. I think he's working out some kinks. You ready? You ready? All right. To the Brooklyn Bridge by way of the Bronx. Brother Blacksmith, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
What's up, big sis? How you doing today?
Good. Busy as usual.
It's been kind of uneventful lately. I mean, I don't have anything real to talk about different from last week. We got war in Iran, and the war between Pakistan and Afghanistan looks like it's easing up. I don't hear about it no more. I checked on it. I didn't see nothing new on it. Everything I saw was from a few weeks ago. So as far as that war front is concerned, I think it's quiet. But if you know anything,
let's check it out. Let's check it out and see. As of about 10 hours ago, let's check it out and see what they're talking about here. Hold on.
Okay.
American cities on high alert this morning after the FBI warns the state of California is now a target for Iran as it aspires to strike its coast with drones. No specific timeline or targets have been identified, but local officials are still receiving a precautionary alert. The LA County Sheriff Department saying, quote, in light of current global events, the department remains at an elevated level of readiness and is maintaining increased vigilance as we continue to protect our residents of Los Angeles County. President Trump was asked about the threat yesterday. Watch.
President Trump, what have you heard about this bulletin that some law enforcement put out about a possible Iran revenge plot in California, where there would be some kind of a boat offshore launching drones towards
it's being investigated, but you have a lot of things happening, and all we can do is take them as they come. And the war itself is being prosecuted as well as anybody has ever seen. And this is other countries telling me too. Big countries, powerful countries. They said they've never seen anything like it. And they also agree with what I'm doing. They say it's an evil country, and it's been for 47 years that way.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says he's aware of the report, but says there is no imminent threat identified so far. All of this as the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz is escalating, with the Iranians sending drones trying to take out tankers that are traveling through this critical waterway. Joining me now is Red Cat CEO Jeff Thompson. Jeff, thanks very much for being here this morning, and we want to get your expertise on drones and on the security required to stop these drone attacks that Iran is doing to try to stop the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. First, let's talk about this drone threat from Iran on California. What is your reaction?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Maria. Well, we don't have any details currently, but if they're trying to launch, vertical launch mechanisms off of small boats off the coast of California, it's going to be very easy to find and very easy to kill. Whether these are smaller drones like you see in Ukraine coming out of Mexico, there's certain things you can do against that, but the really small ones like FPV drones that we make and other drones you see in Ukraine are going to be very hard to battle because they're just so quick, small, and they're off-the-shelf technology, so they could be anywhere inside of California already.
Right. And that's really what I want to talk about, these off the shelf drones, because this conflict in Iran is testing America's ability to combat swarms of cheap drones. They are now a staple in this battle. After Ukraine and Russia demonstrated their effectiveness, defense leaders are stressing the U.S. military has been able to shoot down a majority of Iranian drones, taking out much of the capability. But Jeff, you have Iran keeping up this fight. And you've said drones are crucial to modern warfare. Your company supplies thousands of drones to the Department of War. So what kind of security is required to stop these drones in the Strait of Hormuz, for example, where yesterday the Iranians took out 3 ships?
Man, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. You know, they have this waterway where they are blocking oil tankers from coming through. And so the prices of gas continue to increase. And when the price of gas continue to increase, that means we're going to pay higher costs, not just at the pump, but also for your deliveries, for your food, and things of that nature. Although the U.S. does have oil reserves, I think some of the Democrats are trying to plead with the president to go ahead and use those oil reserves and to sort of ease the increase of cost. But I think it's a bit too late to ease the increase of cost right away. Brother Knowledge Born Allah said a professional double talk. That what it is? Is that what it is? Professional double talk? Your words, your thoughts, excuse me, Brother Black.
Yeah, you're right. I saw something yesterday, and it's funny that Black Rose IAE, I hope I said that right, says while you were saying that, it popped up, California has so many illegals and immigrants, should have a lot of ICE to do their job out there. I saw yesterday in particular that in certain places in LA County, gas is $8 over a gallon. So, or
wow,
whatever they measure it, but $8 basically. And that's crazy because I mean, even on the East Coast or more east, it's 4 or 5, and that's crazy. I was out there one time in 2008 when the gas was high around that time. It was like 4s and 5s. So I could believe that it's out there just the same, because once you block the Straits of Hormuz, that's the place you've been talking about 70% of the oil, all the world's oil moves through that little area. And right now that's where the battle is. So, I mean, we got to hang tight. You know, like back then, you know what I'm saying? If you living hand to mouth, or, and you just paying for your car, ease up on where you going, ease up on ordering in and stuff like that. If you must buy food, go out and get it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you live in a place that has public transportation. You can rely on that sometimes if you're going somewhere far, especially if you got to additionally pay for parking, things like that. So it's not hard. I mean, you just make adjustments and so on and so forth. Some people can do it, some people can't. And it's going to be like that for a minute. But when I was talking about, I wasn't talking about this particular war when I said I ain't see nothing going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which was something that we spoke about briefly last week, because there are a few different war fronts out there right now. People forget that we just allegedly snatched Maduro out of Venezuela. And as well, there was a bombing of Nigerian Muslims who were killing unaliving Christians. So, I mean, I believe, Sister Keisha, and I've been saying this for the longest time, everything that's happening, not saying that ain't no war, ain't no killings or unalivings, and ain't nothing going on. But I believe a lot of this is for distraction purposes. And we know that in any war, there are casualties. So, it could be exaggerated. I'm hoping it is. In fulfilling the book, like Bob Marley said on Redemption Song, they have to do it. Israel has to be last, because that's where it's going to change from. And with that said, I think I said my piece, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, because, I don't know if you've heard, but there was some bomb threats in New York,
right,
and other places.
Okay.
In fact, let me play this clip and we'll come right back. This is New York.
Tonight after a suspicious smoking device was thrown during dueling protests outside the official New York City mayor's residence.
The NYPD commissioner shared this photo showing police running toward the device. Investigators say the initial protest called Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York was organized by a right-wing group. Now, Mayor Zohran Mamdani is Muslim. We're now learning 2 counter-protesters are connected to 2 devices found at the scene containing metal fuses and metal. The commissioner says an 18-year-old counter-protester ignited one of the devices and threw it into the protest area where it landed near police officers. He then allegedly retrieved a second device from another 19-year-old counter-protester and lit it and dropped it on the street. Both individuals were then arrested.
The devices, which were a bit smaller than a football, appear to be a jar wrapped in black tape, importantly, with nuts, bolts, and screws, along with a hobby fuse that could be lit. Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers.
Police say a total of 6 people were arrested, including a demonstrator from the far-right group who used pepper spray on a counter-protester. Mayor Zohran Mamdani's press secretary released a statement saying, in part, the mayor and the first lady are both safe, though the events are a stark reminder of the threats they both face regularly.
New details.
Again, I just want people to just be careful in how you move about. As it was reported that, somebody put in the chat, we live in areas where you have a high amount of illegals. You do not know what their intents are. You don't know if they the ops. You don't know anything. And shout out to Brother Ray Ray in the BK Mackey History Club. They had Brother Trust Graham on last night. But, it's a telling sign that, when people are out here protesting for people you don't know, to stay within your borders, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen at this particular point. And I just want everybody to just be very careful about how you move about, whether you're here or in your respective cities. Even those of you who do not live in populaces that hold a lot of immigrants, because you never know what's going to happen in a wartime situation. So just be careful. Be careful of how you move in these internet spaces, because cyber attacks are also happening. Last week we talked about some issues that Amazon had where people couldn't search, order, or anything like that. Be careful with your banking information as you go about, whether you're grocery shopping, filling up at the gas pump, or just, be careful because your cards have these chips. And as you take them out of your wallet or whatever, your back pocket or whatever, they could easily be scanned, and, your information can be taken. Please be careful in how you move about that as well. So as Brother Black, said, this is something that's going to be around for a long time. We see that the president is moving as he wishes. And a lot of people are disturbed about that, but they didn't have the same type of angst with the Democrats, who stayed in war. Think of it. At what point in history, a lot of us on this live are either of millennials, Gen X, or the baby boomers on this live. At what point in your life have you known the U.S. not to be at war with somebody? So we just got to keep moving and doing what we have to do. And I think Brother Black talks about that often. We got to keep forward and doing what we're doing, because even in the state of chaos, Brother Ray Ray says, Soros at work. Why did they lay him down? I don't know. It's just not Soros. And I know people believe that he's the big wig, but there are several big wigs. He's just the most well known. And you have to, be mindful of that. He moves in a consortium. He doesn't move alone. It's not a one-man show. And a lot of them are of the hats, so you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And some people say, well, this is Israel's doing. That may may be, but also you have to remember that the UK plays a pivotal role in this war. Their economy is on tankdom right now, and they also play a big role in that. Brother Knowledge Born says, "What threats do the mayor and the first lady really face?" This was a last remark from the broadcast. I don't know, but this is what happens when you disrespect the ancestors of foundational Black Americans. When you come on live and talk about immigrants built this nation, you're so disrespectful in your policies and how you operate, a karma will come upon you. And I'm not wishing unaliving on anybody, but let's be frank. You can't say what you want and think that, there's not going to be a pushback for that. Right now, he's having Muslim prayer in the offices of the mayor. So it's a whole lot of things going on, considering this is a Christian nation, or allegedly a Christian nation. I personally believe that certain things shouldn't be allowed in public, and it should be for the public consumption. Whatever your religion is, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, I don't care. That's between you and your God, and it's not to be broadcast for the world to see, because for me, it's disrespectful. So keep that to yourself. We don't want to know all of that. That's your business. So
can I splash on that, Sister Keish, before you move on?
Sure. Go ahead.
In examining, and while you were speaking, the thought came to my mind as a result of what you said. In examining Mandami's mayorship, I believe that the powers that be allowed him to be the mayor to give this Muslim and Jewish, anti-Jewish, vice versa, Palestine and all that involved, whether you call it Israel, Palestine, whatever, Judah, to give that more opposition so that it could be in the media with what he's doing to make it a big deal while they do the other things behind the scenes. And this is what we have to understand: the infiltration works both ways. So bad guys infiltrate the good guys and vice versa. A lot of people don't focus on that, and this is what's happening right now. I'm done.
True indeed. Knowledge Born says all tests and simulations working in tandem. The purpose for the bombings were thwarted. Were to thwart the cyber attacks effort. Russia and China also have deep cyber ties. Speaking of Russia and China, I was in a X space yesterday, and it's just sad how dumb people are, considering we live in a world where you can readily get information at your fingertips, and there's no need for you. He rocking BK today. He's showing off. But I was in a space on X, and they were talking. It's a bunch of right wingers, I would say, from my take on that space. But he was talking. One gentleman who was a co-host was talking about Russia and its component in all of this. And, and I said in the space, well, Asia is not going to divide itself on this. So he says, what are you talking about, Asia? I'm talking about Russia. Yeah, Russia is a part of Asia. Only about 20% of its landmass sits within the European borders. It's an Asian country. So he says, I don't believe that to be true. I said, well, you Google it and I'll wait for you to get back to me. And so he had to correct himself and he apologized. But, he was standing so forcefully on, it not being a part of Asia. But I digress because I just had to get that out there. Considering the climate that we're in, when people will get up and say things and don't know exactly what the hell they're talking about. Shout out to Empress Filet, MWM on the check-in. That's kind of what Brother Malcolm X taught about, keeping one's religion to themselves. Yeah, I don't want to see Mayor Mondani in his prayer or whatever he's doing. I don't care. That's your business. Nobody knows what my religion affiliations are. It's none of your business. It's between me and my God. And I think a lot of people, it's a turnoff to me. To me, it's a turnoff. But he is a bit crude. And so I would expect nothing less. Sister Farnessa says, there are alleged threats to attack California. Yeah, that's what we play in the video from Fox News. Yeah, because it's in an open space. It's in an open space. It's in a direct line from where they can fire off at, And if we were in a war, with Russia, just for saying, I would worry about the Midwest because it's connection to Russia in that area, right? You can literally walk from Michigan into that terrain. So, you have to look at geography and how things sit in the world. It can be a little bit scary for some folks, but we're going to get into it. Let me see if Sister Brooke and Brother Devon is ready to come up on the Brooklyn Bridge. Sister Brooke is giving me the thumbs up. Welcome to the Brooklyn Bridge, our activist right here out of New York City. Sister Brooke up on the check-in. What's happening?
Hello. Hi, Brother Black. How you doing? And congratulations on using the word unalived. You're catching on. But hello, my big sis Keish. Yo, let's I had a couple thoughts about the whole Mondami thing. I can't stand him. I did a 6-hour live talking about his whole life from the rooter to the tutor.
Yeah, let me get Brother Devon.
Okay. All right.
On the Brooklyn Bridge, the U.S. Freedom Project president, rocking out with us on the Brooklyn Bridge. That's happening, brother. What's happening?
Good evening. It's always good to be up on the bridge. Hey, Sister Brooke, what's going on, Brother Black? And my big sister Keish, K-Fighter, is in the building.
Peace and power to my brother.
And that's right. If I wasn't so foundational Black American centric, I might hit you with the Caribbean bim. And that's it. We're gonna party or something. So we gotta get our own sound effects.
And just for clarification, Brother Tad is on assignment tonight, so he will not be joining us. And Sister Marcia is under the weather. She will not be joining us as well. So I just wanted to put that out. But go ahead, Sister Brooke. You were talking about Mr. Mondami, Mayor Mondami.
To quote Arrow, he has failed this city already, and he only been in office a couple seconds. And he failed the city with the snow. He's failing the city with the boomers, the people with the big pals. He failed the city he failed the city with the buses, with the MTA. He failed in the city with the taxes. He has failed this city. And to me, that is evidence of him being a part of this invisible coup. Like, it is obvious that he is trying, I no longer think this is not bumbling. This is not I'm dumb. This is not I don't know what I'm doing. This is a coup that is happening right before our eyes. And everybody who voted for him, you did it. You know what I'm saying? You didn't listen to the 6-hour live I had. I took 6 hours, and don't forget how much time I spent researching before that. I tried to tell you, you didn't know what his plan was, and that he was a big fat liar. And now it is obvious to me. I wasn't sure before what his plan was, but it's obvious to me that he is here to take down the city from the inside. And now he's sitting here talking about he's going to raise minimum wage to 30. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. I need y'all to think critically. One, you already see California tried to do this. It didn't work. Two, you can't raise minimum wage to $30 and think that you cannot force these big businesses to pay people like delivery people $30 an hour. You can't do it. You know what they'll end up doing is finding a robot to do it for them. They'll figure out some other way to not pay you. There's no way you're going to be able to force them to pay people who are flipping burgers $30 an hour. Okay, you're trying to make it where people who come over here, who don't have no experience, who don't have no resumes, who don't have no references to be able, so they can make $30, so they can have a livable wage. But that's not how America works. And I also want to point out that when I was 14 years old, I got my first job, right? Matter of fact, I had 2 jobs. So when y'all sit there and talk about Caribbeans, the only ones that work hard, y'all could kiss my ass with that, because at 14 years old, I had 2 jobs. Okay. So, and that was my entrance into the workforce. So at 14 years old, I made minimum wage. You think they're going to pay a 14-year-old $30 an hour? That doesn't even make sense. And that's who minimum wage was for. Minimum wage was for 14-year-olds, not adults coming over here trying to flip burgers and sustain a family of 5 on burger flipping. A burger flipping job, the only adults that would be in the burger flipping job would be the managers. The burger flipping job, that's why, that's why you got all of these takeovers happening all over the place. These kids are supposed to be working. They're supposed to be working at the and that's why the mall ain't doing no good. They should be working at the mall. But no, you got adults at the mall. Let me tell you something. Because then if you know your friend work at the mall, then you gonna go to the mall with your friend. And that builds pushes the economy, because then you see something in the store that you want, you go home and you ask your parents, or you save your little job money or whatever. This is how the economy kept going. You know what I'm saying? But now you got adults working at the mall. Ain't nobody coming to see no adults. But when it was kids working there, the kids, and then they the ones coming to spend the money at the mall. So this is not happening in a vacuum. And I need people to see that not only that, but he's also failed this. He's continuing to fail the city, because I won't put it all on him, but he's continuing and doubling down on failing the city when it comes to paying for these illegals. Why do people understand that the reason why they have to raise the taxes, the reason why and now he's trying to end for all the free parking in Manhattan. So now the reason why you got to try to do something like that is because we spent $10 billion admitted, because I'm sure it's more than $10 billion, but they spent $10 billion on people who never paid a red cent of taxes. Like, and don't hit me with the, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they get IEN numbers and some of them pay taxes. You pay taxes now. You ain't been paying taxes in the system since you was 14 years old. Your parents ain't paid taxes in the system for hundreds of years like ours has. So your little taxes that you came and you spent is not covering the $10 billion that we are spending on your friends, family, and whoever the hell else, and human traffickers. I'm sick of this bullshit.
You know what? Let's listen to what Brother Tramel from the MTA union says about this $30 an hour.
In this $30 minimum wage proposal. And to be clear, I actually support the idea of a $30 minimum wage, because let's be honest, in New York City, $17 an hour minimum wage is not cutting it. Rent is crazy, groceries are crazy, everything is expensive. So yes, workers in this city deserve better pay, but supporting $30 an hour doesn't mean we ignore the real question. First problem we have to address, what happens to the small businesses? Because from what's being proposed, the big companies hit $30 an hour first. Targets, the Macy's, giant corporations, corporations, but small businesses may not reach that number right away. So let's ask the obvious question. If Target is paying $30 an hour and a small neighborhood store can't afford that yet, where you think workers are going to go to work? Let's be real. Most people are choosing a higher paycheck. So if we're serious about $30 minimum wage, we also need to talk about protecting small businesses, because if we don't, the corporations win again. Now let's talk about another reality nobody wants to say out loud. There are city workers right now who don't even make $30 an hour. Think about that for a second. You could work a government job with stress, strict rules, investigation, drug testing, medical reviews, supervisors on your back, and still making less than what minimum wage will become. So now ask yourself a real question. Why would someone choose that job? Why take a harder job with more responsibility, with more discipline exposure, if a retail job pays the same or more? And this leads to the biggest issue nobody in politics wants to talk about. Wage compression, not wage progression, but compression. Because if minimum wage becomes $30 an hour, then skilled jobs must rise too. You can't have minimum wage at $30 an hour and skilled labor sitting at 40. That gap is too small. Responsibility has to mean something. Risk has to mean something. Training has to mean something. Take transit, for example. If minimum wage becomes $30 an hour, transit jobs can't start at $23 an hour. That makes absolutely no sense. Nobody is going to sign up for a stressful public service job just to make less than minimum wage. And people are definitely not going to wait 5 years to get the top pay just to barely get past minimum wage. People need money now. So yes, raise the minimum wage. I support that. But if we raise the floor, then the rest of the building has to rise too. City workers need higher starting salary. Public sector wages must increase. Skilled labor must increase. And small businesses must be protected, because raising minimum wage is only step one. The real question is, what happens to everyone else?
You know, it's telling. It's telling, because like you said, like even in the private sector, some people ain't making $30 an hour. So then you will raise the increase to $30 an hour for Uber delivery folks, the new folks who just got here. Meanwhile, you got city workers who've been on the job for 25 years and they ain't making that. Now, how that sound? How that sound? Like Sister Brooks said, he ain't here to help y'all. He here to help his own. He here to help his own. Brother Divine, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's wild crazy. Like, you know, I was on that live with Sister Brooks for 6 hours. So I fully understand, you know, the painstaking precision that it took to break down Mom Donnie and his ideas and his scatterbrain concepts that he ran on. And was telling to me is that, and I got another saying for later on in the broadcast for the other topics we're going to get to, but here's what's crazy to me about what they say about us. Less thought has gone into these proposals that they propose every time they run than what has gone into for reparations. Yet they'll come to us and say, well, how does reparations work? How's it going to go? Who gets what? What goes where? But this brother just broke down how a minimum wage of $30 doesn't even really solve the problem you're trying to solve, but just exacerbates all the other problems on the back end that you never looked into. But you never looked into it because you know this ain't never going to fly anyway. It sounds good. It's something to run on. And that's what really has them hot and bothered. And kind of to answer the prompt of this live, why they're in our spaces is because they know that foundational Black Americans have done the thinking on every level or every apron of what it's going to take to have reparations be accomplished. So we understand what it takes to raise the minimum wage of reparations, to make the analogy, and then to also raise the floor for every other component of what reparations would affect or would influence moving forward. And so since we've done all that, see, because remember, there was a time where reparations was looked at the same way you look at raise the minimum wage to $150 million an hour. It was like, this sounds like a good idea, but we know it ain't really going nowhere. And foundational Black Americans, in the way in which we do things, took that old Black American proverb, oh my God, now I can't even say it. I'm trying to say it. turn something, you know, take nothing and turn into something, for lack of a better way of to say it. And we took that fringe topic of reparations and turned it into a reality with all the scholarship, with all the advocacy, with all the constitutional study, and raising the minimum wage to whatever number you want to raise it to is still in those infancy stages of being a concept that is not well thought out. And that is where we're at when we see this kind of talk about it, and that it leads them to scramble, which is why we've seen him do the whole bait and switch with taxing the rich to now raising property taxes and all the other concepts going to take. And, you know, I hate to quote him, but I know that's Sister Brooks' favorite New York City mayor ever. Former Mayor Adams said that there's no such thing as anything for free. That just means somebody else has to pay.
Don't let him get away with that, please.
No, but I do agree with this one. Like, let me tell you something. Since he got out of office, he's been making a lot more sense. I'll tell you that much. But I still can't stand him.
That just means somebody else has to pay.
That's right.
That's the part of the game. That's the part of Democrat socialism that they don't tell you.
And it's us. That's why your taxes going up. That's why the congestion pricing. That's why they trying to charge for free parking. It's us that's paying the bill. Like, people don't see that. It's crazy. And you know, his name is Tremaine. Bless his heart. I think he means very well. I think he's a good guy. But again, under illusions. Talking about you just labeled all the reasons why a $30 minimum wage won't work, but then you still for it. Come on. I just need people to, like, you know, be, you know, serious. And when he was sitting there talking about it's gonna help the corporations, it's not even helping the corporations. These major food chain restaurants are going out of business left and right, and they're the main ones that had to deal with that minimum wage being raised. And I'm about to send you on the back channels this 2-minute YouTube thing on that I watched about it, about how that these chain restaurants are closing. Like, it's just not possible. You can't do it. And then. And I'm just going to put this one other piece in there since we're talking shit about Mandami. Well, since I'm talking shit about Mandami. He wants to take the apartments, like landlords that have, you know, multiple violations. He wants to take those apartments away from those landlords and what, make it city owned? Sir, you're the worst landlord.
That'll make it worse. Way worse.
Way worse. You the worst landlord we got. NYCHA is terrible. You know what I'm saying? And you want to sit here and take it from them? Now, I do, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not a rocket scientist. So when I be coming up with solutions, I know you could do it too. I had all these degrees that y'all got. I didn't study economy. I didn't do any of this. Just common freaking sense. You should force them to sell. You absolutely should force them to sell, and make sure when you force them to sell, make sure that none of their family members could buy it, and none of their business associates can buy it, and force them to sell. But you cannot make it city owned. The city owned apartments you got is already in the toilet, and you're doing a terrible job. You're failing NYCHA. And here's the the chain restaurants that are closing down. So when Tremaine's in there talking about it's going to benefit the corporations, boo-boo, honey, sweetheart, love you so much, but they losing too.
Sister Keisha, you frozen? I think Sister Keisha's frozen.
No, I see her moving.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Well, I can ramble until we get it play.
Hold on, I think that's the wrong one. Hold on, one second. One second. Give me right. Hold on. We got 2 YouTubes open. All right, give me 1 second. The one about the chain restaurant. Also, I wanted to play a clip too about. I'll play it after this. Hold on.
to dominate around the country. They were a fun place to grab a meal at an affordable price.
Yeah, but recently many are struggling, even going out of business, as Arthur Chian reports. Inflation, high labor costs, and changing tastes are all playing a part.
Noticed a lot of prices on TV are jacked up from what they were before.
The delis sometimes will cross out and they'll have the new prices. So yeah, the prices definitely went up.
As customers, we see the rising prices, even in places that are go-tos for a cheap meal. Food industry analysts say what we do not see is how, even though prices are going up for us, profits for food chains are going down. Their margins squeezed by skyrocketing inflation costs, which are driving up their labor and food costs.
Their dollar profits actually shrink. So they're making less money, not more money. And that's counterintuitive because the consumer is complaining about prices rising too much.
With the margins squeezed, major chain restaurants have started closing stores by the hundreds across the U.S., including here in New York City. Wendy's alone says it's planning to close 350 of its restaurants. Following suit are other well-known chains, including Papa John's and Pizza Hut. Threatening to take these changes even further, an entire generation of Gen Zers are tiring of so-called slop bowl chains like Sweetgreens and Chipotle.
Mostly just grocery shop and cook for myself.
Yeah.
Smarter. Yeah, it's just easier.
I've been eating more, supporting more of the local trucks here and the carts here, because I think that as the prices go up for those corporations, we should be helping our fellow New Yorkers.
While the closing of chain restaurants is getting attention because they are well-known names, industry analysts say the squeeze is on for restaurants on every level, including mom and pops. They say the key to survival at this point is finding ways to get customers in through the door, which some are doing.
Burger King did the SpongeBob SquarePants promotion. It was also very effective driving traffic, and that's going to help improve four-wall cash flow on your fixed costs, and that's going to drive profit expansion rather than compression.
A possible roadmap to survival in an uncertain time. Arthur Chian, Fox 5 News.
It's crazy work. It's crazy work. It's crazy work. And, because not just that, but again, the cost of living is so high. Someone put in the chat, I think it's Sweet Butters 17, said today California gas prices is $8.20 in LA. That's ridiculous. Meanwhile, in Midtown Manhattan, all of the corporations are leaving the city in droves. They've been leaving the city since the last administration. Gone.
Did my Dami say that wasn't going to happen? Another lie.
They've been leaving. Them office buildings are empty. You hear me? Midtown Manhattan is going back to the days of the 80s. All you need is the XXX theaters to come back. It'll be the same thing. If you walk down 40th from 5th Avenue to Broadway to 6th Avenue, all you see is migrant food delivery bike riders getting high all day long. Matter of fact, next week when I go into the city, I'm probably going to record it because I want y'all to see it. It's crazy. You can't even get past them. They all getting high over there all day long. It's a disaster. So we going back to the 80s, and it's been that way for the last two administrations. Before what's his name, de Blasio left, people were leaving New York because the taxes here are so high and business cannot thrive. Some move upstate New York, but the majority have left the state in totality. So we gotta understand that. And also, like I said, we're in a terror threat city. Those of you who were around for 9/11, you know. Hold on. Let me see.
Called protester Jake Lang a white supremacist, but he failed to mention that the two men who threw literal bombs at him are two Muslims, and he didn't even call them terrorists. He actually didn't even condemn that. But meanwhile, here in New York City, you also have all these people. This is the famous Canal Street. And look, now they start freaking out because I put a camera on their face. But they sell all this stuff, counterfeit goods. Meanwhile, all this madness is happening here in New York City. Nothing ever gets solved. They let criminals do whatever. Whether you say this is criminal or not, it is. They're selling fraudulent goods, not paying taxes on it. Meanwhile, you're working hard right now. But these guys are able to make loads of cash and pocket it all in their pocket without ever even having to pay tax. So then watch, as soon as I put a camera on any of these fraudsters, these scammers, watch how they just freak out. How much? Show your face? No face? How come? How come? Look, they make lots of cash. They know they're doing stuff wrong. That's why they won't show their faces here on camera. And they're making thousands of dollars. So you have a mayor who's not willing to call terrorists, who are literally throwing bombs in the city of New York City. They have a bomb squad there right now, checking out everything because of how bad it is. Look, how much? How much? How much? Why? What's wrong? What's wrong? You doing something wrong? See, they know they're doing stuff wrong. That's why they all freak out. No, I'm all right. Thank you, ma'am. They know they're doing stuff wrong. That's why they freak out. And you really do have a lawless New York City right now. You have a mayor who's not condemning anything. Only thing he is condemning is a protester. He's a Christian protester. You might not agree with all his tactics. I agree. Some of his tactics are a bit wild. But he calls him a white supremacist, but he won't call the terrorist. That's a little crazy. So today here in New York City,
it's crazy because going back to de Blasio's first administration, there was deals that were brokered between the Asian of Chinatown and the Africans who are working the goods outside. They're not on the streets no more. They made a deal with the Africans, and the Africans are controlling the market outside. Like he said, those are thousands of dollars not being taxed, that are going in their pockets. They got to break the Asians off, the Asian mafia down there, the Chinese mafia. They got to break them off over there to allow them to sell them goods over there. But if you stand over there for a while, you'll see the majority of the patrons, those who come to shop, are white folks. It's crazy how it works, but Nick Shirley left that part out. But that's who get out of Jaguars and go over there and shop. Meanwhile, they convince rappers to promote to you original goods, and you trying to break your bank buying original goods when those who have means go to Chinatown. Y'all thoughts on that clip?
Woo, I want to talk. So that part about them having the fake bags is, y'all don't really know how much fake bags they be having while y'all out here trying to impress them with y'all real bags. You know what I'm saying? Like, and checking tags and whatnot. Them white people with money, they bags be fake. Okay? And so when they was I want people to understand, like, this is what attributes to like rising prices. So when you're sitting there talking about, yeah, give people $30 an hour, how is it going to balance out if they're going to make your cheeseburger $30? You know what I'm saying? So you're going to raise the raising the minimum wage. It's just not productive. And when you see all of those people, like, they're allowed to have an open, imagine if Black people, they don't want us selling books. American Black people, we can't sell books. We can't sell barbecue. We can't, you know what I'm saying? Everything is illegal for us as foundational Black Americans. But everybody, it seems to be able to have their illegal economy. And I'm going to talk about this right here because I'm from East Flatbush. So while we got the Africans in the city on Canal Street doing that, we got the people in East Flatbush allowed to have illegal buses. They don't be having no license. The freaking thing don't have no registration. It ain't been inspected in God knows when. It don't have no seatbelt. It don't have no bumper. And they be running into people all willy-nilly. But somehow, I don't know. I don't understand how it is legal or it's being allowed. It is allowed to happen.
That's the right word. Allowed.
We can't do nothing. We can't even sneeze.
And how long have those dollar vans been running?
Since I was a child. And I look like a spring chicken, but I ain't no spring chicken no more. Okay. So, like this been going on for decades. They have been allowed to have an illegal bus economy, and they get accidents, leave everybody in the bus, and run. And how long has been going on? Decades. And so, it's like every single immigrant group, let's be honest, is allowed to have some form of a legal economy that we can't even have a legal economy. Our legal businesses be getting shut the hell down. And then people want to sit here and try to get in on our reparations. Are you mad? Are you mad? Have you lost your mind? You already getting your reparations every time you hop in your illegal dollar van. That's not even $1 no more. Every time you are allowed to crash up people's cars and you don't have no insurance, no registration, no inspection, no bumper, that's where your reparations is at. And then for the Africans now, you know what I'm saying? You allow when you selling your fake bags. And if I don't know if you saw part 2 where Nick Shirley he interviewed the police. Police said we arrest them every single day, and they get released every single day. Release, and they back out there the next day. Really? So you get arrested and released the very same day when Khalif Browder, a child of New York, another child of New York City, because don't forget, he was a foster child. He a child of New York City. Now, his mother loved him like that was her own. But truth be told, he was a foster child. Him and his brothers and sisters. She just had a really big heart for all her children. So much that they broke that heart. But anyway, he was in Rikers for 3 years over a book bag that he said that he never took, and he wasn't even nowhere in the vicinity. And the illegal that said he took it had left, or they couldn't find him. Either he left or they couldn't find him. They didn't know where he was at. He might have still been in the country. And now, fast forward to 2026, we know that that's part of the ways that you could get asylum, is by claiming that you were the victim of a crime even when no crime has occurred. Because when I read that book that Sister Keisha gave me, The Invisible Coup, one of the ways that they was getting a citizenship is to accuse your spouse. Let's say you got a spouse visa. You accuse your spouse of whooping your behind, even if they didn't do it or not. That's one way you can get citizenship. They're even accusing their citizen children the children who they got birthright citizenship for. They're accusing their citizen children of whooping their behind to get citizenship. But throwing their own kids under the bus to get citizenship. So again, I just want people to understand that, I want you to see the contrast. Somebody lied on this boy and said he stole a book bag. He was in Rikers for 3 years. These people are outwardly committing 2 crimes that we know about. 1, being illegal is a goddamn crime. Okay? It's against the law. 2, selling fraudulent goods. So those are 2 crimes that can be proven pretty much on the spot that's happened. But they're getting released the next day. Then we could go to the whatchamacallit, the illegal dollar vans. You're driving a vehicle with no registration. That's one crime. No license. That's another crime. No insurance. That's another crime. And then let's toss in having an accident and leaving the scene of the crime and putting all the people in danger. So These people are committing crime after crime after crime after crime, but they not spending 3 years in Rikers like Khalif. And I'm done.
They're giving favor. They're giving favor. I want to play this clip of some black men talking about how the Cubans who came over were giving favor. Hold on.
Many black Miamians view the sudden in-migration of Cubans with bitter irony. Black Miamians watched as Cuban exiles were given assistance, aid, and money that native-born black Americans never received. Some blacks began to feel that the Cuban migration and the federal government's attention to Cuban needs blunted demands that blacks were making during the 1960s civil rights struggle. Jesse McCrary is an attorney in Miami. At 34, McCrary has had a fast-moving career. He's been an assistant state's attorney general and for a time sat as one of Florida's federal court judges. McCrary likes to remember that he is one of few blacks that is able to maintain offices on Miami's Biscayne Boulevard. We asked McCrary what he thought the Cuban immigration means to blacks in Miami.
Well, one, Tony, it means that economically, when you look at what the Cubans have done in terms of their economics versus what blacks have done, it means that we are once again at the bottom of the barrel. There are no predominantly black financial institutions in this county. Some people would say that, even though there is a bank here with a number of blacks on the board of directors. But when you look at the control of the bank, where the major portion of the stock is held, it's held by white Miamians. Contrasting that, you have Cubans who have a bank that reportedly is one of the fastest growing banks in the country. Now, that poses a problem because I believe that the whole strength of any community happens to be what kind of financial institutions do you have? Is there an institution that can make a loan to a man who wants to go in business? Is there an institution that is sympathetic to a man who wants to build a house? Is there an institution where he can borrow money to send his children to school? Now, if you don't have those kinds of institutions, then certainly when other people have them, that is white Miami, Cuban Miami, and then black Miami does not have it, it certainly puts them in a pretty poor position, I think.
Always giving favor, but they'll tell you they get it out the mud.
Out the mud.
You know, always giving favor. Brother Black, any thoughts before I move to Brother Divine?
That's been going on for a long time. When Sister Brooke was talking earlier, I didn't want to cut her wisdom, but the plan of the United States government ever since emancipation, manumission, whatever one you want to call it, has been to always keep the Black American native as a permanent underclass. That is still witnessed today. And even though y'all have come up a lot more, for the most part, most of us most of FBA is living in poverty. Most, I ain't say all. Proportionate level, less than whites, because we know these numbers are skewed and made to look a certain way and so on and so forth. But too many of us are still in the hood. And, you know, that got to change. So that's what I have to say on that.
I want to get Brother Divine's perspective, but just a little pushback. The majority of us aren't living in poverty. And that's another misnomer, that the majority of Black folks are living in poverty. In fact, more than half are middle, middle class or above. And these are just on recent numbers. And when people say live in the hood, I live in the hood, but we are homeowners here. You know, we are business owners here. And I, even in saying a hood, if you will, just a little understanding, all of the homeowners in this area in which I live are Black. All of the business owners, 70% of them are Black. So, you know, and people would say that this is a hood. Meanwhile, if you sit out my house, outside my home, and I have family members who are in the chat. It's very quiet over here. You can hear rat piss on cotton. You know, Sister Brooke had car trouble a few months ago, and we were sitting outside. She'll tell you she didn't hear nothing. She didn't hear nothing. So, you know, we have to change our idea of what the hood is and how things operate there. But I get your point and your perspective, Brother Black, on the previous commentary. Brother Divine. Can't hear you, Black.
I said I stand corrected and thank you.
No problem, brother. We listen, iron sharpens iron over here. Go ahead, Brother Divine.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly who was. I can't see the name anymore in the chat. But to speak to what the first video before we get to the second video, he made the comment in the chat. Why didn't I believe with the gentleman that was doing the recording is the white boy? Is his name Nick Shirley? Is that who that was? So he made a comment in the chat. He said, "How come Nick Shirley wasn't putting the camera on any of the Asians that was selling any of the goods out there?" And you so eloquently pointed out on the reasons why, so I need to go back over that. But what I do want to point out is this. Moving forward, we need to get into the habit of understanding that when they are pointing out what they're pointing out from the immigrant class, even if all the faces you see are heavily melanated, they still represent the same immigrants that you might complain that you don't see. And what I mean by that is this. They unify based on immigration status long before they're going to unify with us based on melanin or amount thereof of melanin in their skin. And so Sister Keisha already told you and informed us that they are empowered by those Asians. And so you will never see them out. If you've gone to Canal Street recently and for a little while now, you don't see that the Asians are not on the street anymore. Because they have the storefronts. They own the legit businesses that they still do illegitimate practices out of. And so, though there is a hierarchy within the immigrant society that you may feel like you need to point out, because the melanated ones or heavily melanated ones, since everyone has melanin, as our sister Keisha said, everyone's melanated, I'll just say. There is a hierarchy, but understand that, especially from the perspective of Foundation Black Americans, the entire hierarchy displaces and is a detriment to us. So pointing out their hierarchy is almost irrelevant when we're talking about and framing the conversation around what harms us and what doesn't. Like Sister Brooke said about what's been going on in the Caribbean sections of the city, not just Brooklyn, because they got the same dollar vans and dollar cabs out there on Jamaica Avenue in Queens. Right? Sure. We know Brooklyn, so we know Utica, Flatbush. We know that. But they got their own sayings out there in Jamaica, Queens, of where they will take you and where their jurisdiction stops. And all of them the same. They are as illegal today as they were back in the day when we were growing up. And it has just been allowed and empowered. And that leads me to the last video, because it's the same thing again. Different skin hue, right? The quote unquote white Cubans. And they were also elevated and allowed to do the things that they've done the same way in which these other heavier melanated groups have, the Afro immigrants, as I so affectionately call them. The same thing. And the one thing I will say to that brother, and this is not to correct him, because in his area of expertise, he knows far more than I could ever know. But what we have found, because that information wasn't readily on hand, and this is one of the benefits of the Trump campaign, but the Trump presidency thus far, his administration, is that they uncovered how much of the immigrant success story is undergirded by this government and through public funds. And so when the brother was talking in the video, and he's saying, yeah, you know, because the Black Americans, Native Black Americans, we don't have the economy that the Cubans have come here and set up. I would like to just push back a little bit on that brother who is probably more than likely dead and gone, but just to give the proper perspective moving forward, that is not an economic system that they had or that they created. It was an economic system that was created and given to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way that has never been provided for or given to foundational Black Americans, in juxtaposition to that, we have always gotten out the mud. And if any of these immigrants, both Afro, Asian, white, or other, if they were on the same timeline that the foundational Black Americans were on, right about now, they will be on rebuilding their communities because the white supremacists came and burned them down and ran them out of their Chinatowns and ran them out of their little Italies and took their businesses and took their property with impunity. But that never happened to them. And so that is the reason why we have to become fully aware that immigration as a whole is a weapon used by the system of white supremacy that has always been wielded against us and never for us.
Most definitely. 1 second, Black. Empress Filet, she says, that's not what's happening in Philly. Black home ownership, most Black hoods, communities have been dismantled. Black home ownership has declined crazily. Let me just say that Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, is smaller than Brooklyn. Brooklyn landmass is larger than the city of Philadelphia. What you have is, when you think of these cities, a lot of people are moving back south. A lot of people are moving to the Midwest, and they are building, buying homes and starting businesses. And that has to be looked at. We can't look at one particular space, but around the country, in all 50 states is what I'm talking about. The wealth is up for a lot of people. And I think someone put in the chat, chat says that the actual numbers of recent data from the U.S. Census shows about 18 to 18.4 of Black Americans live below the poverty line. That means around 8 million people. So if there are 50 million of us, that's a small percentage. And that's why I say, we have to look beyond, these metropolises, right? Because they say that that's where the majority of Black people are populated, but that is changing. And it's been changing for quite some time. People have been leaving these cities in droves because of the cost of living, because of gentrification, and because of the influx of the immigrant population. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. And so they have bounced. Like I said, I took a trip 2 years ago to Wyoming, and you will be surprised the Black home ownership and businesses that are thriving in the state of Wyoming. But, when we think about Black people, we don't even think about the state of Wyoming, right? I was on a Zoom call. I think it was the U.S. Freedmen's Project. They had a Zoom call last night. Shout out to Sister Annette and the good Reverend. Shout out to them for having that. But one of the sisters who was on the call, she says, she used to live out here. Now she lives in Oklahoma. She said that last night. So a lot of people are leaving these big cities because they've had enough. I myself am looking at the state of Alabama for quite some time. Shout out to Sister Farnessa for giving me a lot of information about Alabama and various places where I should look at and where I should stay away from as well. So, I thank her for that. But, we have to get out of the mindset of, you know, just the cities in which we live, because they are on a decline. And they have been on the decline for quite some time. That's because of the influx of immigrants. You know, they are the problem. They have long been the problem. And I'm not just talking about Black immigrants, the Asians, the white tea, all of them have been a problem. So I'll land on that because I wanted to move on to some of the other topics that we have to get to tonight. Like I said in the outset, there are a lot of conversations about us, without us, and I think it's going to be a real hot pull-up summer. You know, we'll be pulling up on a lot more spaces beginning next week. We're going to start pulling up on some spaces because it's getting ridiculous out here. And it just proves my point that these folks have no content without us, have no conversations without us, and they are so used to leaning on us that they don't know how to stand on their own. And that's why, you know, these people are in uproar. Let's hear what this woman says, and then we're going to go into a conversation with Joy Reid, Akbar, and Godfrey.
The foundational people are crazy. Let's just start there. It is an act of desperation to call yourself anything other than what you are. Why are you always looking to be called something else? We are a rich culture. We are a beautiful culture. And when you have a high cultural self-esteem, then you go anywhere in the world, and it is not reductive to be in proximity to anyone else. I never feel small in Nigeria. When I leave Nigeria, I even feel more full. You know what I'm saying? Because I can see so many similarities. I can embrace the Nigerian national culture, but also all the ethnicities within it for its each individual beauty. It makes me feel fuller. Yeah. Do you understand? Yeah. And when you have that high, just like cultural self-esteem, right? It just makes it so much easier. So I don't subscribe to this whole foundational Black American, the Hotep, the Sulan, the flag, all this. What's wrong with being African American? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to take the African out of it because you're anti-African, because you're xenophobic.
Let's get into it. First of all, I'm gonna say it first, and then we'll go to the panel. The first thing she talked about is that we crazy. Why we gotta be crazy? You know, because of an identity, we're crazy. But you don't call your folks crazy because you have a gazillion different dialects and tribes within your own cultural understanding of your own people. But that's not a problem. She says she feels full when she goes to Africa, but you ain't staying there. You if you're full there, why don't you stay there? In the same breath, she's sitting there dressed like, speaking like, and trying to emulate foundational Black Americans. This is ridiculous, but I understand why. I'm gonna fall back and let the panel handle it. Sister Brooke, we'll start with you.
She says she feels full when she leaves because when she at home, she feel darkness because they ain't got no electricity. When she at home, she don't feel like she could call 911 for the EMS or the police. She feels shakedown when she's at home, when the police is sitting there asking you for something small all the time. So of course you feel full when you leave because now you get to wave your flag in everybody else's face as if you're proud of where you come from, but you don't never stay. And then why the hell? And I'm gonna say this as many times because I see the family starting to catch on. I'm gonna be honest with you because I kept ringing this bell, and I just want to make sure it get rung every single time. Why the hell would we want to be affiliated with the human traffickers that sold us? Bottom line, we was cool with it before when we didn't really understand and we didn't really know. But knowing that you guys sold us, no, I don't want to be affiliated with you. And you want to be affiliated with a name that a white woman gave you because you didn't even make up your own country name. And your country is about 2 seconds old. My mama older than your country. Don't tell her I said that. She'll beat my ass.
I ain't say nothing. I ain't say nothing, mama.
Like, you can't talk about my age. You know how our foundational Black American mamas are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you like the craziness. And like you said, you sitting there, where's your Nigeria? Where's the whole fan rap thing? Why you ain't have that on? Why you ain't have on that tight peplum long dress thing with the hips built in it? Why you ain't have that on? Why your makeup is not done in a native way? Why your makeup done how we do our makeup? Why? Exactly. I'm tired of people who don't even have enough respect for their own country to fight for it, to come and tell me what I should do while you sitting in my country. I've had enough. And people can shut the hell up. Your eyes may shine. Your teeth may grit. But us stopping from delineating, you ain't never gonna get. It's too late. As Keisha says, it's up and it's stuck. This train is moving 100 miles. However you want me to say, I could come up with foundational Black American phrases to the cows come home. Look, there's another one. To let you know, we ain't never gonna stop.
It's crazy. Brother Devon, your thoughts on this woman and her verbiage?
Yeah, I'm glad all I gotta do is play cleanup crew because I wanted to let the ladies gather up and read her, like women can do.
Hold up, Brother Devon. Don't get too deep because if I gotta go after you, I might not have nothing to say. So
I'm not gonna get deep, but I'm gonna get a little petty.
Don't listen, go deep.
Because Sister Brooks set the stage. Another reason why she feels full when she leaves is because when she's home, the bushmeat and the goosey don't hit like it used to. Once you've had filet mignon, bologna just won't do. And so she only feels full when she leaves because that's when the real food starts to kick in and when she has access to it because we have provided the access for her. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. I believe that woman, did she work for Obama?
Oh, yes. I believe you are correct, sir. Mr. President, yes, you are correct.
Okay, there we go. So she worked for that president. Not me.
That one. The other one.
And so when we hear the ideologies and the mindset of these people, it is no wonder why the politics before FBA stepped into the booth was lacking, and that's being kind.
Mm-hmm.
When you have someone that is responsible for any part of a presidential campaign or administration that says people that are identifying themselves are crazy, you understand what you're up against. But then turns right around and says, oh yeah, and it's just I love the Nigerian culture and every single ethnicity within it. Not that it has to be one. Not that it is one. That there are multiple ethnicities under the umbrella term of Nigerian, which was named by a white woman, Flora Shaw. And you can respect all those identities. But foundational Black Americans are crazy. And then she fixed her lips. And I did not know that Nigerian was a francophone or French-speaking country. right? Because she came out with all the
That's
weed
English.
in
It's
the
English.
world, right?
It's English, bro.
No, he's making a point. He's making a point. Let him cook.
Yeah.
Let him cook.
Yeah. There was too many we's in that conversation, knowing that she's Nigerian. We doing this and we don't need to do that. And who is we? Because you ain't a part of that we. You got your own we. And you don't want us to clearly define our we. So then the question becomes why. It goes from we to why. And why is this? I've said this before and I'll say it again. White folks, we understand that living a life of privilege makes equality feel like oppression. And for the tethers like this Nigerian woman here, living a life of cultural exploitation with impunity makes boundaries feel like division. And you're going crazy because you understand the gravy train has stopped. So you just applied the crazy in the wrong direction in the same way you was applying those we's in the wrong direction. So get your sense of direction straight, and then we can move in the right paths that we need to move in, because you're in your lane and we're in ours. And just like Sister Keisha said, just like every other pull-up, past, present, and in the future, they're so used to not only leaning, but so used to having conversations about us, without us, they got real comfortable. But the comfort zone is about to get real small, to the point that they're going to get real uncomfortable when that FBA energy is in person, and now you're going to have to back up everything you said while we wasn't here.
Brother Black, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, real quick. I'm not going to be long, but I was when Brother Divine brought up Barack Obama a minute ago. I was thinking, like, imagine if this conversation was happening during Obama administration. That would be crazy, right? Because he wasn't, fundamentally FBA, even though he was allegedly born on Hawaii right after it got. We ain't going into that. Okay. With that said, there was a time when, y'all know I'm non-FBA, so we don't have to make that a point. But I say that because there was a time when, I've been honest and truthful before Sister Brooke and Brother Divine came on, that, I had some of those thoughts too, because I come from non-FBA parents. And it wasn't because I accepted it. It was like, okay, well, that's what they saying and they my parents. I'm talking about before I was probably, once I left home and I started seeing the world for what it was, I started judging people on who they were and not their bloodline. But, because for the most part, most of the people that are screwing me are my family. So what is that to say? And with that said, I understand what I'm getting from the sister is she's probably either came here really young and don't remember Nigeria as a child because she came when she was 2, 3, whatever, or she was born here but still holds those thoughts because her lineage imparted that on her, and instead of rising above that or at least seeing it for what it is, she just took it on her own. So without justifying it or saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying where the thought forms are coming from and to why she's like that. Hopefully she'll grow out of that and learn better. And with that, I'm done.
Can I just add a third piece? A third option? So the third option, and we have to start understanding that this one is more than likely the one, especially when we're dealing with a woman like her that is in public life, has ties to public office, and we can see, even though she is very ignorant on the matters of us and our ethnic group, she is very educated. We have to stop giving them the education benefit of the doubt. Because the third option is, or she understands that not taking that position doesn't benefit her, right? Letting us delineate does not benefit her people, and their agenda. And so you have to make these false equivalents. You have to make these red herring arguments. You have to have these bad faith conversations again, which lends itself to why they have conversations about us without us. Because what they're also seeing that they're not admitting about this foundational Black American Renaissance is that it's not emotionally driven. For the first time, it's not a reactive conversation that we're having. It's proactive. It's definitive. It's based on historical facts and documentation. And so that's why they don't have us present, because anything that they say is easily debunked and shot down when we're in the room. Because we are the room. We created it. We invited you in. That's the only reason why you're there. And to the last point, to what you said, we all know my position on him, and we know I'm down with the Hosea Williams camp. Messy Jesse did try to set the stage for these conversations to be had while Obama was in office. That wasn't just an empty threat when he wanted to cut off pieces of his anatomy. That was him letting us know, sounding the alarm that, yo, he's not with us. And I will be remiss if I don't mention our great brother, Tavis Smiley, who was blackballed in the early years of Obama's first administration because he was saying, yo, we need to hold this man accountable just like we would anybody else. Because now, as we find out in hindsight, as he's having more lineage-based conversations, you know, we ain't gonna say he all the way where we at, but he is leaning into it. He's exposing what he knew then that he made public, that they then denigrated and attacked that man for, specifically when it comes to Obama. And I'll say this, and I'll land here. I voted for Obama twice. Right? And the only thing I can give Obama credit for is being the motivation and the catalyst for this current foundational Black American Renaissance. Because he is the one that allowed the scales to fall from my eyes to see and truly understand that Black American proverb, or skin folk and kinfolk. Because I truly believed that in that second term, he was going to do what any Black man would do. And I'm using, obviously, verbiage that I was using back then. What Black man would get into office, seeing the plight and positioning of his people, and not go for broke since there's no more elections to be won? And he allowed me to see, for the first time, but definitely not the last time, that him being a white and Kenyan man was nowhere close to him being the same foundational Black American man that I am. And that's why he didn't do what I would do, because he ain't me. And he ain't us.
And you know, this video came across, and then we'll move into Joy Reid. But this video came across my timeline, and I had to repost it. But the level of disrespect that comes from the other side, and it's never been checked. It's never been checked. Never. And they're mad because now some straightening is happening. They can't take it. Hold on.
You Black Americans, you feel so entitled over what?
The next right.
Lazy ass motherfuckers.
Oh, yes, yep.
Don't get some job. You like to live on welfare. My tax money is taking care of you equally if you don't know that. Oh.
Keep it up.
Bullshit.
Yep.
Just blatant disrespect. Blatant disrespect. When nobody receives more aid than the continent of Africa. Nobody receives more aid than the continent of Africa. They are rivaling Israel in the amount of aid that they received. But because you live with crooked leadership, and they never want to deal with their leadership, who make bad deals, steal money, use the people, sell the people, because slavery is still happening from the continent to abroad. It's still happening. And we played videos of those last week, but they like to leave that point out. And it's problematic. They also like to leave out the part that we talked about earlier. You sold us. And now you coming for our reparations. Now you are that wicked. And that whole year return stuff, that was just a money grab. That was a money grab. They know who got the purse strings. And y'all fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. They always tell you, oh, come over. Invest with us. What are you bringing to the table? What are you offering? Because if it was a year of return, anybody who went back should have had free housing, free access, living stipends so they can get themselves on their feet with business. You have nothing to offer us. You have nothing to offer your own people. That's why they keep fleeing. But they don't talk about that. They like to leave that out. Which brings me to a conversation. And we're going to stop this and discuss it as we go on between, excuse me, Joy Reid, Godfrey, and this dude Akbar. Y'all say he played football? I don't know. I'll take your word for it because I don't know nothing about football. But before I play this, I want to let you know there's a show on Netflix and it's called Blue Therapy. And it's about Black couples from the UK, in the UK, live in the UK, who are having problems in their relationship. In this particular show, and I think it's maybe 5-part series, I think. But anyway, you will notice, and I'm just asking you to watch this for visual understanding of what's happening, that they dress like us, mannerisms are like us, body movements are like us. The women want to be rap stars, if you ask me. But every move that they make, every piece of clothing that they wear, every bit of the vernacular that they use is of foundational Black Americans. But this is about Black folks who live in the UK or Africans and Caribbeans who live in the UK. Now, last week, or was it this week? Last week, there was a conversation that took place on TikTok with a Jamaican sister who lives in the UK, whose family came under Windrush movement, talking about the Africans and how disrespectful they are towards them. I'm going to let Sister Brooke give you a little background, and then we're going to move right into this conversation. Because I want y'all to see these conversations that are happening. Even the sister who was hosting, her vernacular, she was using FBA vernacular. She was in her mannerisms, in how I'll just let Sister Brooke tell y'all, and then we're moving. But it was very interesting that this delineation movement has shaken up the world. And everybody wants to delineate. Go ahead, Sister Brooke. Give them a little background of that conversation that took place.
Yeah, so it just came up like on my For You, and I was just listening in the background for a little while, and I had to ask a question, so I jumped in. But basically, she was saying that, that she first of all, she said that even on their census, they're delineated. that the Africans are going around and saying that it's black British culture. And she's like, that's not true. There's black British Caribbean and there's black British African. She says, even on the, whatever they call their census over there, that is how it is delineated, and it has always been that way. And she's saying that the Africans are coming over to the US and making it seem like that there is a unity in the culture, and that they are stealing specifically Jamaican, but Caribbean culture, and saying that it's black British culture when it's actually Caribbean culture, black British Caribbean culture. And using their mannerisms, using their slang, using their music, using their music style, and claiming that it's their own. She also said that when the Africans first got to the UK, that the black British Caribbeans had already been fighting white supremacy because they were the first ones there, so they took the brunt of it. And that the Africans treated the Windrush generation very badly, talked about them real bad, called them basically the same. Some of this, it just sounded so familiar, that they were calling them lazy. They were calling them, different names, and siding with the white supremacists over, the black British Caribbeans. She also went on to say that, and so then they were like, oh, and the Africans, like the next generation, the African children were being made fun of in school by the black British Caribbeans. And they're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I guess the black British Africans are upset with the black British Caribbeans because they was making fun of them. But the black British Caribbeans say, we made fun of you because of the way y'all parents treated our parents. So, and all we did was have jokes on you. And I was like, man, this sounds very familiar, right? And truth be told, the things that they are saying that the black British Africans have done to them are some of the very same things some people in the Caribbean community here in America have been doing to us. So I just find it I found that to be fascinating, okay, as I was sitting there listening. But because I was in their space, I felt like it was not my position to challenge them on that. It was just my position to listen, because this is their safe space. I'm not going to do the same disrespectful things that they do to us when we have our safe spaces, coming in our safe spaces talking shit. I didn't come to their space to talk shit. I came to there to ask a question. And I did ask my question very respectfully, because again, this is her platform. This is her space. I'm not here to challenge her on her feelings or her beliefs. I just wanted to ask a question. And my question was, and because as I'm beating the drum here for us, I want to beat the drum over there, because I keep trying to figure out how come we the only ones mad that the Africans participated in human trafficking when we have the least amount of Africans that were brought to these shores. The majority of the human trafficked people were taken to Brazil and the Caribbean. So if you guys have the majority of that African population, how come you're not upset? How come? And so that was basically my question. Like, how do you feel about knowing that, that certain nations participated in this, that had a willing, because I want to make sure I put that part of, a willing participants in the human trafficking slave trade. I wanted to know how she felt about that and how other people on her panel felt about that. And so, they answered my question. They were very respectful to me as well. And she was like, we don't like it either. And I also wanted to point out the fact that they felt that I wanted to tie the correlation with the fact that they felt that the Black British Africans came there and sided with the white supremacists, which, if you look at history, the white supremacists have been their co-conspirators the entire time. So I wanted to know how she felt about that, and she said she has recognized that fact, and they feel like that, like, sort of like how I felt, that they just continuing on with the same pattern of working with the white supremacists that they have been doing at this point for hundreds of years, for centuries, right? So, it was a very interesting conversation. I stayed on the panel for quite some time, just so I felt like, so people who follow me could follow me into that room and just listen, just listen to the things that they were saying, because it was so interesting. So but like I said, I was not blind to the fact, one, that they have no clue that Fats, and I may have the wrong name. Was it Domino? No, I keep confusing her with Dom. It's a different Fats. So let me look it up real quick, because I know it's going to pop up. But that reggae music was heavily influenced, and basically it was created by oh gosh, let me look. I want his name, because I don't like not Fats Waller. By Fats Waller. He created the original beat for ska and reggae. They got that beat from a Fats Waller song. So they are completely unaware of that influence and where it came from, and they definitely feel like it is all their own. But like I said, I was not there to challenge anybody on their beliefs. I was there simply to listen. I was there as a fly on the wall, honey. And other things. They're unaware of how our influence, influence how they dress and how they talk, and even some of the slang. Now some of it is Jamaican slang. I ain't gonna even lie, you know what I'm saying? But some of the other things that you're saying is our slang, So as she's sitting there delineating herself from the Black British Africans, she's using a lot of American slang with her cute little British accent. It was very adorable. She sounds so cute. And I something else also that was interesting to me, it was like, as I was listening to them, I was starting to, because I'm very good with the accents here. I can pick out a Jamaican from a Bajan, from a Trini, right? Those are the easiest accents to differentiate, right? The Jamaican, the Trinidadian, and the Bajan, right? And as I was listening to them, I was also hearing the difference in their accents as well. Like the young lady who was Jamaican, her accent sounded yes, British, but more Irish British. And I thought that was interesting. And then the Black British Africans that came on the panel, they sounded a lot more like that comedian Abashola, like Abashola, whatever, and it's a lot more punchy, like it's like their accent is a lot more.
Say it again, bloke.
Pardon? I didn't hear you.
I said, say it again, bloke.
Well, their accent is a lot more punchy, like, you know what I mean, for the lack of a better way to explain it. But like I said, as I was listening, I was able to hear even the difference in their accents. And so, yeah, it was just like I said, it was a very interesting conversation. She was a very lovely young lady. Like I said, she's confused. I don't agree with her and everything. She's confused about some things. But I definitely respect her passion on wanting to delineate her group from the rest. And so it was very interesting, very interesting. And she was on live for a long time too.
Yeah, quite a few hours. Very, very interesting. But and it's just so funny, In the beginning, I was telling Sister Brooke, you gotta get on TikTok. You gotta come over to the TikTok streets. You gotta come over here and see what's going on. But somehow, some way,
a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. Somehow, some way, we seem to be in the same spaces, and that's a good thing. So, here's this conversation.
Before we get to the Joy Reid,
sure.
Can I just say something about what Sister Brooke just shared? Or just something in relation to it. So this, this came around very, very close to the time with which we had, which was a point of conversation on the bridge as well. The entire Tourette's / sinners /
yes.
British and then Afro immigrants debate. And this conversation that Sister Brooke just was a fly on the wall for led me to remember a comment I was going back and forth with someone from the UK, another Afro immigrant from the UK. And they were comparing and talking about the Black identity, which I will talk about the next thing I'm about to say. So the first thing, though, is that we were talking about just what was experienced in our homeland versus what the Afro immigrants experience in the UK. And someone else on the thread had made a mention of, like you guys didn't go through anything like Jim Crow. So there's no need for us to even make this comparison with you guys. And the Afro immigrant from the UK said, well, we didn't go through anything like Jim Crow. Clearly you don't know anything about the Windrush generation and the Windrush scandal. And so that prompted me to look it up because I was like, wait, do I not know something? See, because a lot of times when you talk to these tethers, right, because they lie so much, when you don't know something, they'll make you think you crazy, like you missed something. Like, I'm like, dang, did I miss a hole in history? Like, did something really go down in the UK where they was like lynching folks or, worse? And the Windrush scandal, out of the roughly 500,000 of them that came over that immigrated to the UK, right? They immigrated.
That's already a big difference.
So that Windrush generation is immigrants that came for work, like they do now. And the Windrush scandal that he likened to Jim Crow was roughly 83 people that immigrated to the UK during that generation that were forcibly removed from the country after doing some work or not able to get any work, and they were deported even though they have valid passports and papers and things of that nature. And so I'm just pointing that out to give you the mindset of these people and how bad faith they are when having these conversations. Like, how dare you make the false equivalent between Jim Crow in the country we built and the opportunities we created for a large number of the white immigrants that then turned around and visited white domestic terrorism that was looked past by the white establishment because they were also classified as white. And we know the unspeakable horrors that was done. And you compare that to 83 immigrants that had to go back home. Not to another country, not to hell, not to a concentration camp.
Just home.
Just home. And this is what I want to say to the next part, because I'm just gonna move on from that. That just was food for thought. When I looked at it and finally found out what it was, I was just disgusted. But what Sister Brooke experienced and witnessed is something that I saw maybe late last year or early last year, where, because we don't really pay attention to some of these other groups.
We don't.
That's when I found out for the first time that there is a rift. And I should have known because they are tribal people, but that there's a rift between the Afro immigrants to the UK from the Caribbean, even within themselves, but more importantly, between those from the continent of Africa and those from the Caribbean. To the point where there are instances of it on the shows that air in their country, right? They'll have them warring against each other or having beef or tensions or fights or arguments based on their heritage. But then they'll come to us and say, well, how are you going to gatekeep black like we're not black Brits? What? See, the power of Black in the U.S. is that we created it across all different petty differences, through all regional differences, through all the different dialects and languages that our ethnic group has, and we created one unified identity across all those differences. Mm-hmm. So you bastardize the magic and the allure we placed on Black. Mm. When you try to call yourselves Black Brits and you know that you are an Afro immigrant from the Caribbean to the UK, and you view yourselves as different than the Afro immigrants to the UK from Africa. So there is no Black Brit community. There is no Black Brit culture. There is Afro-Caribbean culture in the UK, and then there's continental African culture in the UK. And they operate separately and distinctly from each other. Mm-hmm. And so this idea that you are anywhere close to a comparison to us or anything comparable that we have to pay attention to or to acknowledge is a joke. And these are the lies that they have told themselves for so long and try out on us. And when they don't work, they throw the temper tantrums like we get ready to see in this clip right now.
Again, let's play this clip. We're going to stop it and discuss and play after. Okay? Because it's a lot. We got to break it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Here we go.
He was like this. He was like this. I'm too. He was like this. He was like, I'm too. Man, wait, hold up. Oh, there it is. I'm too. Why are you making fun of my weight? You're like this. Burlington Coat Factory. Men's Warehouse. All right, you gotta set it straight.
Excuse me, this makeup was expensive. Please do not make me cry it off. Thank you. Paid real money.
All right, you got to set it straight. You got to set it straight with Guyana, because earlier I said, I thought it was a South American country, but you said no. It's a Caribbean.
It is a Caribbean country.
It's a Caribbean. Can you explain that?
Yes, Guyana, because it was colonized by the British. They brought enslaved people over mainly from Ghana, which is where my great-great-great-grandmother came from. She was enslaved at 7 years old with her mom. They went to Queenstown, Guyana. That's where they wound up. Actually, in Essequibo is where they ended up. And it was a British colony, and they enslaved people.
Isn't there French Guyana?
There's the French Guyana and a British Guyana. So the French Guyana is called Suriname.
Suriname.
Yeah. They're next to each other. Oh, yeah. And they're right next to, and they're both on the coast of South America, but they jut out into the Caribbean Sea. Yeah. And because the British also colonized the islands that became Trinidad, Trinidad and Guyana have exactly the same culture. They have the same accent. They eat the same food. They both eat very Indian dishes because they had Indian slaves there too.
Yes.
So they had enslaved Indian people and enslaved Black people from Africa, the coolies, and they worked together. Oh, they don't really get along always, but they intermarried. And so they're very Indian. They're very sort of Indian and Black mixed culture. Right. And the cultures are exactly the same. So Guyana,
even though it's on the South America landmass,
it's physically on the landmass, but the culture is Caribbean.
Culture is Caribbean.
Yes, the culture is no different from Trinidad.
That rape and pillaging is no joke.
It's no joke. I mean, they created these the largest number of Black enslaved people is Brazil.
Brazil, that's right.
Right, and so there were far more Brazilian enslaved people than in the United States of America. But they were in Canada. They were.
So, when people say our lineage and our story is different, it is very different. Very different. One thing she said, right? The majority of them went over there. They didn't come here. They didn't come here, But I find it interesting that people still to this day in 2026 still believe that those enslaved of their lineage, and I'm talking about Black Americans here, came from Africa. You you still refuse to research the reverse Underground Railroad. But okay. All right, let's continue to play this.
Wait, please. Hold on. Because she said a lot right there. And I'm from East Flatbush, and you can't fool me. Okay. Number one, the Trinidadians and the Guyanese argue about curry chicken and chicken curry. Do you know how much arguments they have? It's not chicken curry, it's curry chicken. It's chicken curry, it's curry chicken. Second of all, I remember having friends who told me we are not in the Caribbean. We are in South America because of their geography. Because it's going to be later on or maybe earlier. I can't remember when exactly this clip was. But in the whatchamacallit where Godfrey talks about geography. They are not located in the Caribbean. They are located in South America. That's number two. Then we're going to talk about the fact that she said her makeup is expensive. See, let me tell you something, Joy. Joy. Now, you know I've been trolling you for a very long time because I used to troll you when you used to keep them toupees on your head. You try very hard to look like a Black American, but you can't. It don't matter how expensive your makeup is. You look horrible. Whether you put the toupee on, and now that I trolled you for years, and now you done took the toupee off, your hairline start way back here. Boo-boo, you might as well just shave it off like the dude sitting over there in the corner. Okay? Like the football player. You look terrible. I don't care. You might as well. That was a waste of money, boo-boo. You still look horrible. Okay? You will never look like us. Even though you try very hard. Because for years I asked you why you used to wear the toupee when you used to talk crazy about Trump. I used to ask you, well, why you got on Trump's toupee? Because you used to wear that blonde toupee thing on your head. You didn't even wear wigs. You wore a toupee. You wore a hairpiece. I used to ask you why you had Trump's toupee on your head, and then you took it off, and I regularized why you used to wear that toupee. Look at that forehead. That's number one. Okay. Or number two. I don't even know where I'm at because I ain't even done yet. Okay. Your accents are not the same.
No, they not.
Not at all. Y'all cuss words ain't even the same. I'm not gonna say the cuss words here, but y'all cuss words, y'all don't even cuss people out the same. Okay, and then you want to sit there and talk about yes, the one thing that is the same is the buffer class of Indians that y'all seem to think is y'all family. But I'll shut up right there.
Listen, I gotta come in on this before we go over. Like, no, I can't even tell that story. But I have my own issues with the buffer classes, specifically from Guyana, and their reaction and how they deal with Black people, especially Black American men. I've had some run-ins that's got to be offline. But
you told it on this show before.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yes, you did.
I told that baby shower story. Oh,
no, that's the baby shower story. That's the baby shower story. The restaurant story.
It's a restaurant story.
Oh, okay, yes.
I don't remember it. I was on here.
That's what I'm saying. I can't tell that baby shower story.
Don't tell the baby shower story. Don't tell that one. Don't tell that one.
I don't even know if the statute of limitations is over on that one. But
don't tell that one.
Yeah. But needless to say, like and I'll be brief because I know we got a lot of video to get through, but this is what I'm saying. This is why it has to be us. And for all those that ask, well, why do you go about what you're doing in the way that you go about it? Because we just saw the disrespect from whoever that was associated with Obama's campaign. Now think about who this woman is, what she's represented before she got fired, and who she was speaking for. And then think about the disrespect that is aimed at us. Because remember, Ajiwaki Wu next to Godfrey, he said our identity is divisive. Not just divisive, it's the most. I think did he use the word divisive? What was the word he used? Yeah, I think most divisive thing he's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But ain't no pushback to. Oh yeah, no. I know we're on the South American continent, but we really Caribbean, just like everybody else. So we can't be foundational Black Americans based on the country we built. But she can pick and choose whether she's South American and Caribbean, based on not geography. She didn't base on geography because based on geography, they South American. Let's be clear. She based it on a false equivalent of we're just like Trinidad. And not we're just like Trinidad. We're just like Trinidad because they brought the same bumper class into Trinidad that they brought into Guyana. So we the same. And we were colonized by the same people. Like, so when you think about how disrespectful it is for every verifiable fact that makes us who we are to be questioned and denigrated, but she can get her behind on here and talk about, oh, we're the same because we had the same colonizers and the colonizer brought the same buffer class in for us that they did for them. And we're the same because, like Sister Brooke just said, everything else is different. And I wish you would. Anywhere, not I know you can't do it in Brooklyn, but anywhere that Caribbeans congregate, I wish you would call a Trinidadian a Guyanese person or a Guyanese person a Trinidadian, and I will let them tell you how close and similar they are. And I'm expecting, I'm not expecting, I'm kidding. But if the smoke was the same for these people, like they have it for Foundation Black Americans, based on everything we say, the Trinidadians and the Guyanese should be in an uproar, and there should be think pieces about this part of the video alone for days and weeks to come. And there should be spaces all on TikTok that we can't get enough of Trinidadians and Guyanese people reading her for filth, letting her know that we're not the same. But we're not going to get those. Because they don't care about identity until it's Foundation Black Americans flexing ours.
Can I add one little thing? Because he made me think of something. Let's not forget that Joy Reid is half African. She's sitting there delineating and saying that she's Caribbean when geography shows that she's Central, that she's South American, and she really is the African. But guess who's not challenging her on saying that she's African? Why isn't she African Guyanese or African Trinidadian? They're not challenging her on saying that she's Caribbean when her actual bloodline comes from the continent. Now, her father might have been an absentee father because she talks about that a lot. That African, that strong African blood that is better fathers than foundational Black Americans. She talked about how her father was an absentee father. And I could go in. I don't know where this clip is going to go, but I'm ready with them notes about her goddamn daddy. She talked about her daddy for filth. But like I said, they didn't challenge her not one time on the fact that she said that she's Caribbean and she's not saying that she's African. And I'm done for now.
Do I hear Sister Brooke promoting Candace Owens versus Joy Reid on pay-per-view?
No thanks.
Yeah, I don't care.
We don't promote Tether on Tether Crime.
No thanks. And then too, the other part, have to point out how expensive her makeup is. They have a nasty habit of that because if you come from bushmeat,
you need it.
There it is. There it is. They like the floss for no reason. We'll continue the clip and we'll come right back. Hold on.
All throughout the Caribbean, they created so Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, all these countries that were British colonies, the British Virgin Islands, these are all the colonies they created. And the cultures are very similar. They have a lot of redundancy, but the places where when Black people got free, they replaced them with Indians.
Right.
Trinidad and Guyana are two of those places. And now the Indians and Blacks don't really get along. They sort of fight for dominance.
Insanely stupid because we all eat plantain.
We all eat plantain.
Well, everybody's connected by the big banana. The big banana connects us all. Everyone eating plantain. You are African, whether you like it or not. Your makeup's gonna get messed up. It's plantain. It's maduros. It's plantain. Plátano. It's tostones. Why you messing up her makeup, man? You know where else? You know where else we're seeing that though? That same type of division where you're talking about the Indians and with the blacks, the Black and Indians. we're seeing the same thing here in the United States, though, with Black Africans, Black immigrants. We're seeing a lot of that, and a lot of that has to. We were talking about that. There's not a lot of information. And I don't say information, teachings of colonialism and how colonialism destroyed Africa. And likewise in Africa, there's not like a lot of going on about the civil rights, right? Because you're all the way in Africa. So when the two come together, it's like, you know, this thing that's happened, you know?
And I think the difference is that there are three sort of sets of Black people that are in the diaspora. They're the Africans who were enslaved in their own home.
Yes.
You know, if you were Kikuyu or you were, you know, a Xhosa person in South Africa, they enslaved your ass right there. And when they were done enslaving you, you got rid of them for the most part. They either left or they left behind their colonial system, but they colonized you in your own place where you live. Then you have the people who were stolen, and you either went to a country like a Brazil or to the Caribbean. And so you experienced just horrific, degrading slavery, but that was about enslaving people and then using their bodies up and then letting them die and then going and getting more. And so you had a more holistically Black culture because you really maintained your Africanness in a lot of ways. And then when you died, they just went and got a different person. You weren't like being bred like cattle. Chattel slavery really only took place in the United States and Canada, but mainly, right? And so this is a different mentality. These people were told that slavery was endemic to being Black. The African Americans were sort of taught or told that just being Black or having any African ancestry meant that you were endemically a slave forever. That was not the case as much in the Caribbean or in Africa.
I had to stop it there. A lot was said. Go ahead, Sister Brooke.
We don't eat plantains.
Thank you.
Right there. We don't eat plantains, so we not connected with that at all. I didn't have a plantain until I went to somebody else's house.
Come on.
That wasn't a foundational Black American. We don't cook plantains. We don't eat plantains. And truth be told, I really don't even like them. I eat the chips, but I really don't even like plantains. Yeah, shoot me if you want to. I don't care. I don't really like it. Okay. Now, I love a roti. Don't get me wrong now. I love a roti with tamarind sauce, okay? But I don't want no plantains. I don't really like plantains. And make sure you have my tamarind sauce too. When she talks about people being enslaved on their own land, they refuse to admit our indigenous heritage and how the reverse slave trade that, you know, Sister Keisha's always talking about, and how they were just using, and then how they were taking people, because as you're learning more, they were taking people from from this land mass, shipping them to Africa, then shipping them back and calling them Africans. So y'all refuse to understand this, and you are always behind on history and learning history. A lot of the history that you learned, we taught you. It was our ancestors, our fathers and mothers and uncles and aunties who came to Africa and taught you your history, because I could bring up videos where y'all tell us that. So when it comes to history, we are always on the cutting edge of knowing and learning and finding out and seeking out knowledge. And you guys are always 100 years behind. And just like now, you are failing to realize our indigenous history here that is being uncovered every single day. Oh, one more thing. Y'all keep talking about the Indians were brought in as a buffer class. They were not enslaved when they got there. They were brought in to be over you, to be your overseers. And they are your overseers to this day. But again, y'all see a more camaraderie when he's sitting there talking about, oh, you know, well, maybe there is a similarity, because now they're trying to bring y'all in as when y'all was sitting there talking about, oh, he sat there and said, you know, the Indians and the fight between the Indians and the Guyanese, or the Indians and the Black Trinidadians, are the same as the fight between us and here and the Africans. You know what? I'm going to agree with you. Because they're trying to bring you in as the buffer class. And we're saying, hell no, we don't accept buffer classism bullshit over here. You may accept it over there. You may not fight back against it over there, but we not confused by more melanin than the white tea person. We're not confused. We see the bullshit and we're not going to allow it to happen. Another thing that we see is how they empower even the people who look like you to they empower the traitors of your community to be in your prime minister, to be all the leaders in power so that they can steal the money off the top and then the people get nothing. We're not going to allow that here. And I don't care what y'all have to say about it. We ain't going to allow it. You let it happen in your homeland and we ain't going to let that shit happen here. And you're not qualified to tell us anything because you can't recognize it over there. And that's why you can't recognize it over here. And we don't give a rats behind.
Good. A lot.
Okay, Sister Keisha.
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I knew she was going to go. And I like when she goes first because she can get all the little points on, and then I could just kind of go little overview, full picture.
I just wanted to know how I feel now.
Yeah. So if you notice, these conversations always have to be framed in a superficial manner for them to have any modicum of truth, right? And even then, it doesn't. Like Sister Brooks said, Platanos, that's not us. That ain't our culture. Sorry, hit and miss. But that's the tie that can bind y'all, and y'all will allow it because then that allows y'all to move in and out of different identities, and that's what you're used to. That's really what your culture is. And if you think about it, Sister Brooke. I know you said that he said, "Oh yeah, that the fight between the Black Trinidadians and Indian Trinidadians is the same as the Africans in the fight with us." No, that's not what he said. He said it's the same fight as between the Black immigrants and the Africans. Now we know what he meant, but I believe that that's a Freudian slip because that's why they don't ever acknowledge our indigenous roots here. And that's why you hear a lot of them say they're the ones that will try to call our people group we're all immigrants. That's their talking point. So I think it comes out even when they don't want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing that I noticed that I want to highlight, to the same point you brought up about her and her absentee Congolese daddy. Why would you go all the way to South Africa to make that claim? Especially what's going on to the homeland that your blood is tied to. Why not use what's going on in the Congo right now to make this point? Because I don't know if we're going to get to it, so I don't want to spoil it, but she does mention the Congo in other parts of this speech, in other parts of this interview. But why not make it here? Right? Especially if you're going to come out and tell us that we're African when we know who we are. You are an actual descendant of an African. You are the child of an African, whether he was present or not. So why not use that heritage to make this point? Since you should have experience there instead of speaking on the people that you don't have no experience with or connection to. Again, they love having conversations about people without them because you got direct connections to the continent that you could have made. And so, the entire, like I said, the only way they have a point is when they cause the conversation to be either very superficial or very reductive. And it has to be reductive because that's the only way you can have any of these points fly, where you can say, oh, it's the same thing that's happening here. When the same thing that happened here didn't happen anywhere. And it's the same point that I made during that whole debacle with Dr. Umar and Dafa. Because the one thing she said that is true, that makes everything else they said fall flat, is that y'all were not bred in the places that you were. So you guys are not foundational Caribbeans to your continent or to your country because y'all wasn't bred there. they were still bringing Africans directly over to these islands and to Brazil. So if and when you want to call yourselves African, you are right. But that is not our story. And the last thing I'll say is this is something that has nothing to do with this video, but connected, because online they were saying it, because recently you seen the Brazilians, they had some type of festival or parade where they had different floats, and a lot of them were Afrocentric. And Carnival. This is a question I have for all the Pan-Africans and actual Africans that try to beat us into submission, which will never happen. Because they were celebrating how Brazil is still so close to their Yoruba connections and so close to their, you know, their African roots. If that's what it takes and what the unity is built on, and more of them went there that ever came to be with us in the US, why don't you badger the Afro-Brazilians like you badger Black Americans? Why aren't you over there proselytizing and trying to recruit the Brazilians like you try to recruit us? Those are more your people than we will ever be. And so if they are doing all the things that you say are right, why not take that population, which I think is either just about double ours or maybe even more than that, and go about your merry way with your unity based on Africanness? Nobody's stopping you. They not. But that means, since you're not doing that, that the point of your movement is not true unity with those that believe and stand on Africanness. The entire foundation of your movement is making Black Americans believe that we're African and need you for some level of unity. And that dog don't hunt no more.
Crazy. And she gonna never mind, I'll play it. Hold on.
They knew they had a thousands-year-old culture on these African countries to fall back on, to say we're not endemically enslaved people. We don't come from slavery. Right. Whereas in America, they tried to cut them off from their Africanness and say that Africanness doesn't matter. You're just a slave. Your whole history is a slave. Yeah. You never learn anything about what your ancestral origins were or what kingdoms you came from. You never learned that. You just learned slavery. And so Black slavery in the U.S. was just unique. Yeah. But the other thing I think that people who are from, like where our families are from, what they don't recognize is that that kind of slavery Delineation caused African Americans to produce, I would say, the most dominant cultural force that's ever lived.
World. And that's why we're seeing it spread. That's why we see it spread everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it doesn't come. And it comes from Africa endemically, right? The food, the rice, the dishes they eat, the oxtail, everything. There's an Africanness to it, but its origin story is America. Yeah. And so they create this thing that is, you know, up until a certain, we didn't even say African American when I was growing up. People would say, you know, they used to say Negro, then they said African American, and Blacks kind of rejected that. Yeah. The term that Black Americans like is Black.
They like Black, yep.
And so because it rolls
over. Was it Jesse brought up African American, Jesse Jackson?
Yeah, it was this idea of saying we're African, but in America. Yeah. But African, when I was growing up, being African was not cool. Us little four little Africans.
We got trust.
There was no connection, right? So they were like, oh, the African booty scratcher. They talking like that. Remember African booty scratcher? Because African Americans trace their ancestry to Mississippi, to Alabama, to America. Yeah. But what they did is they took, you know, there are 2,500 different indigenous groups in Africa. It's the most biodiverse continent on the planet. There's no more biodiversity anywhere like Africa. That's right. And so people who were in those ships came from, like, some people, my people Hausa, my father's people are Hausa, some people are Igbo, some people are so we're Hausa people, right? So that's how we identify, you know what I mean? You take a Hausa person, an Igbo person, a Yoruba, and you throw them all in a ship. And they may speak each other's language or they may not, but they come from different tribes. You throw them all together, stick them in a slave ship, strip them of their identity. In a generation, they're not Hausa, they're not Igbo, they're not Yoruba, they're just Black.
Black, yeah.
And so,
that's a lot. That's a lot of BS too. First, let me just say this. We don't start our history with slavery. You don't know us. So you can't say that. You know, I have relatives who told me my story had nothing to do with slavery. Nothing to do with slavery whatsoever. Now, this person, Joy Reid, didn't she go to HBCU? I believe she went to an HBCU.
I'm not sure, but I know she also said she went to Harvard. So I don't know if that was like maybe she went to HBCU for her undergrad, but I don't know.
Could. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I thought I heard that. So you could be right. I don't know. But you're telling our story as an outsider, leaving out the fact that those Hausa, those Efik, those Yoruba, for those of us who do have a connection in that way, in enslavement, they sold them.
Mm-hmm.
They sold them. And I'm never getting off of that. Listen, I can call my husband up here, he downstairs. But I can tell you right here, I'm not the forgiving type. I'm not the forgiving type. You know, that ain't my call. So I'm forgiving that. Then she talks about how, you know, when she came here, her and her family, they never used African American. They never used it. You know, that out of enslavement, we got the name Negro. That's another lie. That's another lie. Because prior to enslavement, if you look at some of the documentations, we either had, I'm talking about on this soil, we had an indigenous tribe, or you were listed as color, or you was listed as Negro, and then it went on to black, went on to freedmen, and so on after that. So where's she getting this story from? She's making it up as she goes along. Then she talks about how she did mention her father, Sister Brooke, but then she talks about how it wasn't cool for them to be African. Because they got, here we go with the same mantra, we got called African booty scratcher. Come on, knock it off. Black people in America called each other that. It had nothing to do with you coming from over there. We called each other that.
Mm-hmm.
Never even went to school with no goddamn Africans or Caribbeans. If you didn't go live in these metropolises, like Sister Vanessa would tell you, she never even mixed with none of them folks. Because they don't happen in Alabama. So what the hell is she talking about? And then you got, and I'm tired of they all bring up that same thing. You got called names. So what? I'm calling you names now. Sister Brooke just clowned your hairline. That's our culture. Since you don't know our culture, we will roast you. Now either you roast back or you knuckle up. And you better be good at one of the two. I'll land there and I'll let Sister Brooke go in.
Like Chris Rock from Brooklyn?
Like Chris Rock from Brooklyn. I'm sick of the bullshit. I'm just sick of the bullshit with these people. They get on my nerves. Meanwhile, cosplaying our whole identity that you got an issue with. This woman made a whole career beating down black folks. Y'all forget she was part of the CNN crew.
Mm-hmm.
All the commentary she would give.
Mm-hmm.
And this fake fighting she would give. Or verbiage she would give.
Mm-hmm.
When you going back to Nigeria and fight over there? I'm waiting on that. I ain't get that yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but I ain't hear that yet. Go ahead, Sister Brooke.
I'm ready to talk about her daddy. She said, so when President Devine was asking why she was talking on South Africa, she was talking about South Africa because by the time when she was a child, her father was not in the Congo. He was in South Africa. She also said that when she was in apartheid South Africa, right? And she said that her father said that he was treated better than the regular Black South Africans, that he received a leg up because he was not from South Africa. So he was treated different and better than the Black South Africans. And that's why he wasn't going through this, because she was worried. Oh, Dad, are you okay? She was like, oh, I'm fine. They treat me better, he said. Okay, that's number one. Number two, she also said that her father was a chief in the Congo. And she said that the reason why he gave up his chiefdom is because he was too lazy. And he did not want to do the chiefdom duties. And he would rather go to South Africa or come to the U.S. for school, because he was in what she said, Iowa, when he met her mom. They was in Iowa going to school. So he came to the U.S. to go to school and then went to South Africa. So her father ran rather than to stay and fight, which is his duty as the bloodline, according to her. He has chief bloodline. So he should have been there fighting to make his country better. But instead, he ran to South Africa where he could be a buffer class on top of the Black South Africans and receive better treatment than the Black South Africans, and then brag home to his American daughter about it. So when she sits there and talk about, her African father, she said that when she wanted to travel to the Congo, he told her not to go because they would kidnap her because the sins of the father. That they would kidnap her because of her bloodline. She's never been. She is a whole MSNBC reporter, and she ain't never been to the Congo because she's scared. I just want to also point out, when they sit there and talking about, how the long history of cultural whatever that they got in Africa, our DNA here is older than the DNA in Africa. And riddle me that. And then, if people lost this is a story that they keep telling us, right? But I want to talk about the contradictions in the story that she just mentioned herself, right? If she said that, and she's not the only one who says this, that when Africans were on the ships, they lost their Africanness, right? If that was the case, why is Brazil so strongly still tied to Yoruba culture? Yeah. So, it's just a matter of poking holes in the stories that they've been telling us for the longest time. But you know what makes more sense? When they kidnapped Native Americans here, took them on a ship to Africa, then took them right back over here, that would be why we don't have any ties to Africa. There's nothing for us to remember. There's a documentary that's coming out. Well, I think it's already out. I'm going to send you the link in a couple minutes. There's a documentary that's coming out. And it's about, I think, about 200 and something people that was in, that were sold to benefit, I think it was Georgetown University.
The 272.
The 272. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And the part that I thought was so interesting of this, right, is that when Georgetown University was first approached about the 272, about trying to find the descendants of the 272, you know what Georgetown said? And the Jesuits, am I saying it right? The Jesuits, whatever.
Jesuits,
thank you. You know what they said? Oh, they all died. They all got fever and died. And come to find out, there are 4 6,000 living descendants. And see, this is what is happening to our history. They want to bury it. They want to pretend that we don't exist. They want to pretend that our stories don't exist and replace it with this nonsense that's coming out of her and them two Negroes' mouths sitting on the daggone couch. They want to change the whole story around and erase what actually happened. And we're not going to let you. We're not going to let them. And anybody else who wants to come up here and lie like a rug, we won't let it happen. I'm done.
All I got is this.
Hey, Sister Keisha.
Okay,
yeah, real quick. I'm not going to take long. Sister Keisha, being that you have such a strong personality and a very strong presence in this FBA movement, I think, and I would help if need be, I think that there needs to be a conversation about y'all not being in the room, and especially on such a large platform that they all have. And if you could promote that so that in the event that they have those kind of talks again, that somebody representing FBA has to be in a room to right these wrongs.
Right. Pressure is mounting. But let me just make one quick correction. FBA is not a movement. It's a lineage. Delineation, disaggregation, it's the movement. Just a little clarification. But they know it. We don't let these things slide. They get ripped to shreds. They know it. We be ripping them to shreds. But go ahead, Brother Devon.
Yeah, Sister Brooks said it all. So the one thing that I want to point out is because this is obviously, we know this is one of the biggest sins, if not the biggest sin of the religion of Pan-Africanism, in my opinion, is that there has been this lie told that the practice of enslavement is not African culture. And so for her to come out her face in this portion of the interview and claim that they don't have a history of enslavement when the various tribes and or quote unquote kingdoms of the continent have been doing that to each other long before any white supremacists ever touched down on the continent. I want that to marinate. The tribes and kingdoms of the continent of Africa have been enslaving, brutalizing, and everything else each other long before white folks ever touched down. White folks were just an extension of what they were already doing to each other, and that's why the trade happened without many hitches on the continent. Because it was plug and play. And just to tie it back to her homeland, and now I'm understanding why, thank you, Sister Brooke, for that insight and those tidbits on why she's not invoking that history and why she's not, talking too much about her dad and what her dad was and who he was. But it only took a quick Google search of slavery in the Congo to find out that King Afonso of the Congo with a K Empire, which would later become the region where Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo and the other Congos are currently, had a culture of enslavement. So much so that he made deals to share his enslaving empire with the Portuguese in the 1500s. So we're talking about centuries of enslaving of Africans enslaving other Africans. And Pan-Africanism will try its damnedest to convince you that there is a good version of slavery. And that is what the Africans were practicing. Good slavery. Good slavery. The white folks were doing the bad slavery. Africans were doing the good slavery because they still viewed you as their family members. Family, real family. We got to put all them lies to rest and continue to speak truth to power in the ways that only foundational Black Americans can. And as we see in this interview, as only foundational Black Americans will. Because everybody else is going to lie.
Let's continue. And I do have that queued up, Brooke, about the 272. I'm actually going to put the link in the chat for everybody to check it out. So you can know what she's talking about.
So this culture of blackness, of American blackness,
it's a real culture.
Is powerful.
Right.
It's a new tribe.
Do you
it's
think,
a unique tribe, and we need to respect it.
There's some Africans that would say, you don't have.
What'd she say?
It's a new tribe, and they need to respect it. You got dang right.
And what else she saying?
They need to respect it.
We're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We're powerful, and none of y'all got that foot. You ain't got that source.
And she realized how powerful when she lost her job.
Woo!
Have a culture. Black Americans do. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Come on.
Because half of you copy it.
Copy it.
Everybody copies Black American
It is
powerful culture.
Because you said it's
You're
powerful.
talking
There's
about-
something different and magnetic about it. You know,
It's
Like,
magnetic. It's
yeah.
a new tribe. They literally took out of many one. You want
Out of many Black people. Unlike everybody else who want to take the out of many indentured servants that came over to be the buffer class on top of you. We not including our buffer classes in that. Out of many Black people, Native people, indigenous people, one, because we have multiple tribes here as well. But we all came together. We're not sitting here going, oh no, you Lenape. and I'm Choctaw. You know what I'm saying? No. We all together. Even in the States, we marrying each other in the States. If you from New York, look my parents. My mother from Louisiana, my father from South Carolina. They didn't go, oh. We don't marry the tribe of Louisiana. No, that we don't do that. Out of many Black people, one single tribe of Black American, foundational Black American freedmen, and we come together like the fists and knock you in your head.
Facts. And even the French knew that. Right? Because the original portrait of the Statue of Liberty, right, is of us. Right? It's of us. This is a copy of the original portrait. It's of us. Not y'all. Of us. But let's continue.
I'm talking about what's out of many one. It's all and look, they did the same with the white people, because white people were all different. They were, French, and they were German, they were Bavarian, they hated each other's guts, and they amalgamated them all into something called white. And then they amalgamated all of the Blacks into something called Black. They invented these things. These things didn't exist until the 16th century, and they're all false. They're not real, but they took away the thing that most humans organize themselves by, which is tribe. Yeah. And that is gone.
I gotta correct something. On the white side, that ain't how they all see each other. Next week is the 17th, whatever date that is. That's next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the Irish American Day Parade, right? You have the Italians, they have the San Gennaro Festival and all that. And they will tell you, you got the what do you call it? The Germans. You got the what do you call it? The Eastern Europeans. You got the small hats. They don't do that. They stand firm on their identity. But they do come in one accord when it comes to us. So they have their own identity. And when she says these falsehoods, we're a mixture of all, we're a mixture of that. And here's where I say, where I can prove the lie. Why weren't they inventors of different genres of music in Africa? Why did the king of Afrobeats, Fela Kuti, say he had a mixture of all music from here? Why you didn't get the same over there? Why you don't got that source over there where you have over here? Why you not inventors and masters of language the way that we are? Our slang change every day and every week. We are masters of language. Y'all not. You ain't got that source. Let me play and continue.
Gone in America, you're just white or you're black. And Black American culture is, again, it's the most dominant culture that's ever existed. It created rock and roll, soul music, country music, you know, half the food we eat, most of what we do in this country that makes us American is Black people created it. And so I think when our people come from other countries, they need to give that some respect. They need to treat that with respect. But also, I wish American Blacks could get the chance to learn what colonialism did to Africa. Because it's not like African people didn't suffer. And I think there's a sense that African people sold us away and forgot about us. But they forget those people were destroyed.
Here's what I call cat. We live in a technological age. This is what I'm saying. People move on antiquated bullshit. You can take whole tours of different countries in Africa without leaving your computer screen. Go on TikTok. They be streaming live from Kenya, from South Africa, from Nigeria. They stream live every day. On this program, we talked about 2 or 3 historians that talked about slavery, whether it was Nigeria or Ghana. We talked about it here. I didn't have to go over there. They showing you. And this is what I'm saying. People move with antiquated BS. I don't have to go, nor do I care. That's not my, I don't care. I'm not going to live over there. If I was going to live over there, then I got to care. I got to learn about the history and the culture of the people I'm going to live around. I ain't going there. I ain't planning on living there. So it's all cat. That's Sister Brooke.
First of all, ma'am, we taught you about your history. Because what y'all learned in them same colonized schools was a bunch of lies. It was Black Americans who came over there and taught you about how you were colonized, who made you recognize that they were the colonizer and not God. And then the reason why we delineate is because y'all come over here confused. You, Joy Ann Reid, sat up on NBC for years, acting like you were one of us and speaking against us every chance you fucking got. And that is why we have to delineate from you, Miss 5 head, 6, 7, 8 head, 9 head, 10 head. That's why we have to delineate from you because of your actions. We were the ones, y'all not welcoming us over there. We welcomed you over here. We welcomed your mama. And we welcomed your daddy. So we welcomed the Caribbean side and we welcomed the African side. It wasn't until y'all gave us y'all ass to kiss. And not all of you. Because you know I got friends that don't give me their ass to kiss. But the ones that's at MSNBC, the ones that's taking up political positions, that's signing on the unconstitutional bills for our reparations. Oh, let's bring that up. You want to talk about what people should learn? Won't you go down to the New York, to all of these legislatures in New York and teach them about the Constitution since you sat up there and you act like you was able to spit off all this international blah, 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 blah. Go down and tell them about constitutional law. But you ain't gonna do that. You're gonna sit up here and lecture us just as you did, talking out of both sides of your neck. And this is why we can't stand you, Joy. And this is why we can't stand you, Godfrey. And that other idiot, I don't even know nothing about you. You used to play football. You probably got CTE. I don't even want to talk to you. Okay? You need to go talk to a neurologist. Because you allowed yourself to get hit in the head playing football. So I don't even want to talk to you. So you get a full study by a neurologist. So this is why we can't trust y'all. Because at one side of your neck, you sit there and talk about how powerful we are. But then you tell us that we need to learn your history as if we don't know your history. As if we don't know that not after the slave trade was abolished by the English, that y'all wanted to continue. That y'all had a slave class that lived there that y'all treated like garbage. You want to act as if we don't know these things. The disingenuousness. And this is why, send them emails. Because this is why we have to delineate from people with foreheads like this. Because I'm sick of this nonsense, okay? I'm sick of her face. I'm sick of her hairline being all the way back there. I'm sick of all of it. Send these emails. bit.ly/BREUCK call to action. Send all 5 emails because we need to delineate and make sure that we are counting separate and apart from people who talk out both sides of their neck. We are not fooled. I used to call it a kiss and a slap. You want to kiss me 1 second, and then you want to slap me the next second. This abusive relationship must come to an end.
Tired of the BS. Tired of the BS. Any further commentary before we move on?
Yeah, real quick, because I didn't get a chance to comment on this on the last one.
Go ahead.
Real fast. I know like we're running on time, but yeah, when they talked about when they played victim about we didn't want to be known as African American because being African ain't cool. Only half of that was right. Again, more speaking out the side of your neck. African ain't never been cool. Being African ain't cool now. That is not why. It's because our ancestors knew we weren't African. I mean, let's clear that up right now. And we didn't create black because African wasn't cool. We created black because that's the identity that we called ourselves and used to unify all of us through the various small petty differences that y'all can't get over on the continent. When y'all look exactly like Mduge look exactly like Tunde, but because he grew up in a different village, now you have different tribes and y'all can't work together against the oppressor. And then come here and try to tell us we can't unite with you. When you, Joy and Lomina Reed, when the reparations movement was first burgeoning and taking off, you was on MSNBC talking about if you hear anybody saying Foundation Black American or reparations or tangibles, that we're bots. You did that. You went on TV and said that. About the same people now you want to sit on this podcast since you're fired and say, oh, but they're powerful and need to be respected. Were you respecting us then? So were you lying then or are you lying now? And at the end of the day, it don't matter. Like Sister Keisha just put on the screen, like Sister Brooke said, send those emails. Family, we are on the brink of having over 100,000 emails sent to the New York legislators for disaggregation. 100,000. But then people will get online and say, well, where's the people doing the work? And Black Americans, they're not even unified like that. Family, just keep pushing. We are going to get what was denied our ancestors. We are going to get what is owed. Not because of people like Joanne Reed, Godfrey, and Ajiwaki Wu. It is despite them. The only reason why it will be because of them is because their lies are being exposed. While she was a useful tool, lying on us, they had her raggedy behind up there. But guess what? In the words of the new black media, white supremacy always breaks its tools. And this is the last gasp of air for Joyanne Reed. And as you can see, they are going to detether friendly spaces because they know if they come to where the real numbers for Black Americans is at in this new black media movement, they will get eaten up in a second. They will become as irrelevant as they're going to become anyway, but they're just postponing the inevitable. And as long as we keep doing, keep doing what we're doing, that inevitability is going to come quicker than they think.
I love it. Make sure y'all send these emails. We're going to continue this conversation next week because it gets more heavy in that. We got to break all this down, especially for you Pan-Africans who seem to be delusional about some things that are happening, because you too stuck with antiquated information and ideals. But send these emails. They are working. There are 5 of them on this link. Send each and every one. They're already pre-written for you. All you got to do is click and send. Of course, read the unconstitutional bill and the constitutional bill. Read all the emails at your leisure. But to send them, it takes less than 15 seconds to do so. We definitely appreciate you, each and every one of you who continue to send them. I send them twice, sometimes 3 times a day. You can do the same. Share it with your family. Let your family see this program so they can see what's going on. Have discussions with your loved one, as we do with my family. We have discussions about these things. And, I be cracking up, but they be dead serious about, some of the things that's happening. But I'm going to play this clip because one of the things that Joy Reid is also guilty of, remember during the George Floyd situation, I'll just say that. It was a lot. Situation. You had people from the left who represent the left and leftist media talked about you wanted statues pulled down, you wanted signs changed. What you did was help people clean up the crime scene. And that is a problem for us. In Brooklyn, you have neighborhoods, you have malls, you have train stations that are built on top of crime scenes. And I'm pretty sure the same holds for where you live as well. This story, the 272, that Sister Brooke mentioned, here's a bit of information about it. And catch the documentary at your own leisure when you can, if you can. But here's some information on it. Hold on.
272 enslaved people sold by Jesuit priests in 1838, and how selling them to Louisiana plantations saved Georgetown University.
About 4,000 of their descendants are alive today. David Hammer was invited to a special screening at Loyola University and tells us why the story is still so relevant.
Obituaries are the life stories of individuals, and during this process we learned of a lady who was born on a plantation, lived to be 99 years old, and the family came to do the obituary and very little information was received. And my sister looked at me and said, "We're burying our history."
During Black History Month, I was invited to watch the first public screening of a new documentary called The Georgetown 272, The Journey. And if you don't know who the 272 were, don't worry. Not long ago, neither did Al Moten Jr., the film's producer and director.
Back in 2020, during the pandemic, around June, I actually got a call from a good friend of mine. His name is David. He worked at Tulane University Hospital. And he said, "Hey, Al, you ever heard of the 272? And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?"
In 1838, Jesuit priests sold 272 enslaved people to Louisiana plantations to keep Georgetown University afloat. Dr. Charlene Senegal Duquire is the chair of African American Studies at Xavier University. She appears in the film.
The enslaved people who left Georgetown, they endured a middle passage, getting on a ship and surviving a month-long trip from Maryland all the way to the deep south, the port of New Orleans. If you can imagine the horrors of the middle passage, it was a rough time being put on an auction block, being separated from all of the people they knew their entire lives and being sold to two gentlemen.
And she spoke to me at the screening.
What people have to understand is that coming down to Louisiana at this time was a death sentence.
In the film, Richard Cioini, founder of the Georgetown Memory Project, describes how university leaders initially hoped that death sentence ended the story of the 272.
What happened to the people? If Georgetown owned and then sold 272 enslaved people to save the university, what happened to them? And about 6 hours later, I got an email back from this very senior, very knowledgeable, very high integrity member of the working group who said, Richard, Georgetown looked into this just a couple of years ago, and what we discovered was that they all immediately died of a fever, and they left no traces and no descendants. And I remember looking at that email, just sort of sitting there kind of stunned. I remember thinking, even the Titanic had survivors.
Cioini dug up genealogical records that proved there were survivors and they did have descendants, including Matthew Mims, who's from Maringouin, Louisiana, west of Baton Rouge.
I saw it come out in the local newspaper, and that was the first news that came, straight across to me. And when I found out, I just felt like I wanted to investigate a little bit more about what was going on and how it related to me and my family.
That's interesting. I mean, we did several stories. Former anchor at WWL, Sheba Turk, did several stories in 2016 and 2017 about it. And then it's kind of fallen out of the national attention, I think, recently. And this film is bringing it back to the fore. Why do you think that's so important?
I think it's really important because it's a part of, not just my family history, but a part of American history. I think a lot of times what we try to do is put things down and not bring it up because there's racial issues that, can be a little bit of a touchy subject for a lot of people. Yeah. But as we learn and as we grow about this, and the more that we communicate with one another, we can actually bring this to the forefront in a healthy way. So we can actually understand, okay, this happened, this was a part of history. Though it was a painful part of history, how can we grow together?
Georgetown talked about reckoning with this history back then in 2016, 2017 timeframe. Did they follow through, though?
No. Short answer, no. They didn't really follow through.
Georgetown and the Jesuits have responded to this history. It's not that their response isn't good. It's just not good enough.
It's very important because, again, we have erasure of a lot of African-American history, and we need to ensure that people understand that the history of the institution of slavery is something that America was built on. And even though it was a nasty past, we still have to understand that past in order to move forward to the future.
And that's the whole goal, really, of this documentary, to bring it out, to heal it, because it needs to be healed, it needs to be brought out. And, just like a wound, you can't keep the wound has to get hair. So we're hoping that this documentary gets out. We want to get out nationwide and worldwide.
David Hammer, WWL, Louisiana.
So again, the erasure that takes place of our history is problematic. Here in New York, that's why I don't say, the parts of Lower Manhattan that I mentioned last week, Little Italy, Chinatown, Soho, you can call it those names, but it's always land of the blacks. This erasure that keeps happening, we got to stop that. So you guys can look for that documentary on your own time to see where you can view it. That's on you. I don't know. You find it. But I played this clip last week. We about to get up out of here. But I played this clip last week, and somebody said I didn't play all of it. I thought I did, but I'll play it again as we close out. Brother Black, your final thoughts and commentary.
Once again, my sister, my brothers, great shows. Always love to learn, and I thank y'all for having me up here. FBA all the way. It's a struggle, but it's a beautiful one. Just continue. I'm going to leave it at that. Next up, see y'all on the bridge next week. One love and peace to all.
Brother Divine, Sister Brooke, sorry, your final thoughts and commentary.
Yes, I'm going to be quick because I said a lot of everything I wanted to say already. Usually I'll be having notes and stuff like that, but there's only one thing I really have to say. One, when we were talking about the Black Brits of the Black British Caribbean and the Black British Africans, right? That young lady was also catching heat from the Pan-Africans. They were also going after her. I forgot to mention that part. So I thought that was very interesting, right? And then I'm just going to leave off with this. When President Divine talked about how they lied to us about what African slavery was like, right? I've come to an epiphany. Because there was also a form of slavery happening here with the indigenous people. But that slavery, and I think what they have done is they have once again erased and renamed it, right? I think the form of slavery that they make us believe happened in Africa was actually the form of slavery that happened here in America. Because as different tribes had wars before, the colonial settlers put their stanky feet on this soil, there were tribes that had wars with each other, and you would become a prisoner of war. But I watch a lot of Western movies. I'm a big, I'm really weird when it comes to Sister Keisha and President Divine to let you know I have very weird interests, right? You have no idea the wide range of things that I ingest, right? And Western movies is one of those things. I'm not really like a black and white Western. I don't go that far back, but any new Westerns that are made, I'm on it. I love those type of things. And one thing that is synonymous with each and every Western that I've seen is that when the Native Americans took you in as a prisoner of war, there was a hazing process where you did have to work the fields or do whatever work that they wanted you to do. But after a while, and if you agree to it, you could be accepted into the tribe as family. This is why they had white tea folk infiltrate some of the tribes, because they were taken in as prisoner of war. And then after a while, if you show your allegiance, this is why they had, people in the Native American community that were half something else, because they would accept you into the tribe. You could, then you doing that. Then, you watch these movies and then you see the white tea person dressed up however the natives were dressed up, right? And so I say all that to say, I think that they have taken what was Native American slavery and put it on the Africans, when in actuality, the Africans were just as brutal as white supremacists. They were just as brutal. And they believed in, as people they talk about, it wasn't chattel slavery. They believed in chattel slavery too, because they treat the descendants of those who they still had enslaved or in chains when the British ended slavery. They still treat those people as a lesser class, the Ohu and the Osu. Look at the wife that was on that show. Was it the Real Housewives of Potomac, right? She was one of that. She was a part of that, the leftover tribe that they didn't get a chance to sell because the British outlawed slavery. And look how his family treated her. Now, like I said, she ended up falling right into the stereotype. But you understand what I'm saying? I think, like I said, I think that they have confused us. And so, because we can see from the dungeons, they held you in these, they held you in these dungeons for 3 months at a time. and did not feed you, to make sure that you were emaciated in heat. They're the ones who congregated everybody together in those dark, dank rooms and made you pee on yourself and defecate on yourself and throw up on yourself and have your menstrual on yourself and all of that in the same room. They're the ones who held you like that. They're the ones who then marched you across and took you to some island off the coast of Africa and then shaved your head and rubbed palm oil grease all over your body to get you ready for the white tea supremacists. So, you know, so when you right, they're the ones, Sweet Butter said, they're the ones with the door of no return and the well of, I don't even know I forgot what the well was called, but the well, the voodoo well, where they made you drink from it and it made you forget where you came from. It made you forget how to take revenge and, you know, from this life and the next, you know. So they're the ones who did these things to us. And so, and just to close out, I want to bring to the family's attention, everybody that's here in New York, that we have been talking about this, that Ghana is trying to come here to put reefs on our ancestors' burial ground. And at first, I'm not a person that believes in protests. And I know people think that what I did at the nail shop was a protest, but it was not. It was a campaign to stop their money. I don't believe in protests. However, I do feel as if this is a spiritual thing that they may be trying to do. And I feel that that needs to be stopped. And so, you know, I hope that, you know, people can contact us and we can figure out a way to, because like I said, I really do feel like they're trying to do some sort of our ancestors' spirit is strong right now. Because we're calling their names, we're digging them up, we're finding out who they are, we're finding out their stories, we're reveling in their stories. And I believe that people who do witchcraft, a way to stop that would be them trying to do something. I don't understand witchcraft. I don't know how it works. I don't know what you put in a well to make people forget things. I don't know what you do to a tree to make people walk around it and forget. I don't know what you do. But I do feel that we need to be aware that could be some kind of spiritual thing that they're trying to do to stop the spirit of our ancestors from speaking to us. And we need to do something about that. So, you know, I'll let, you know, the rest of the panel go now and I'll be quiet. And so just keep looking out for that. We need to figure out a way to keep that from happening and get as many bodies as possible to stop them.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're working on some things in the back channel with some other folks to get some things done. Brother Devon, your final thoughts and commentary.
Man, real quick, like Sister Brooks said, I love these type of shows. We breaking it down because most of it gets said as we go. So the closing statements won't be as long as they usually are. But just kind of in line with what you were just talking about, and I think is more divine providence, no pun intended, is that when we think about the ways in which they have taken our histories and used them and projected them. So just in summary, I'll say it like this. We talked about the misinformation that was going on in this interview, and we'll talk more about the rest of it next week, God willing, and ancestors willing. But I'll just put this in perspective. But like what Sister Brooke just said about them taking what she believes is the indigenous forms of prisoners of war and projecting it onto Africans and how they were enslaving each other when none of the numbers and the proof doesn't add up. And so that 272, that was in 1838 here in the United States of America. And they lied about all of them dying to hide the history, right? But if all of them had died from the journey or from the work, think about how tragic that would have been. Now, as you're finishing up that thought, because that was not the case, and we know why they lied about that, I want to bring your attention to something that the Pan-Africans and that panel of the clown show that we just watched will tell you didn't exist, but you guys can look it up for yourself. Just 20 years later, in 1858, the great slave king of the Dahomey, King Gizo or Gezo, died in 1858. And upon his transition to the next life, they sacrificed 800 slaves in honor of his death. 800. Because the man that enslaved them died. Family, we got to get this spirit of Pan-Africanism up off of us. The lies that have been told are innumerable, and the effects, well, what they thought would be insurmountable, we're smashing myths in real time and debunking the bullshit and reversing the curse. And so, like Sister Brooke just said, I don't know what they're going to try to conjure up when they come to lay that wreath. But in the same way that Dr. King told Harry Belafonte that we are to be the freedmen firefighters for that burning house and burning building he felt like he integrated us into because he thought there would be set-asides just for us, when it instead decimated our communities in hope of a more equal and just community. We are going to be calling on the Foundation of Black Americans to stand in the gap for the ancestors that they are going to try to silence and the ancestors that they are going to try to confuse and misdirect. And the more I think about this fight and how they have helped, I believe that is true. Because as you're doing this work, if you're doing the work, it is clear as day that the ancestors are guiding us and helping us and leading us, because we are finally reaching out to the right ancestors. Those same ancestors that the people that are coming to lay the wreath had a hand in sending and selling over here in the first place. And so the same way you don't get to sell me twice, you don't get to come lay a wreath without me speaking my piece on those that you sent away and sold away. Not got kidnapped, not got sent away, or any other nice fairy tale story that the Pan-Africans want to tell us. It was certain African tribes and kingdoms selling other African tribes and kingdoms. And that's not to absolve the white supremacists, but that's to say that both the white supremacists and those tribes from the continent of Africa are complicit and guilty, and justice will be served to both groups. I land there.
Man, I tell you. But stay tuned for that information. We appreciate each and every one of you rocking out with us on the Brooklyn Bridge every Thursday. Tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. This is where it goes down. Put your last final thoughts in the comments. They will be highlighted at the end of the show. But since they said I didn't play the whole clip, could have been because I ended it, but we're going to play it again tonight so that you can get some more updated information. The oldest site of human life found in the southeast U.S., and they weren't from the Bering Straits.
Nearly 15,000 years, there's a new discovery that's changing what we think we know about how the Americas were settled.
So there's this team at Florida State University that discovered stone tools alongside mastodon bones. That means they found the oldest known site of human life in the southeastern U.S. Consider that. Think about it for just a second. We're joined now by Florida State University Assistant Professor Jesse Holligan. Professor Holligan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
So put into just layman's waking up Saturday morning, eating my Wheaties terms, what this means, the discovery of these tools.
So these bones and artifacts show that people were in Florida 1,500 years earlier than a lot of people accept the Americas were colonized. And more importantly, a lot of us were taught that the Americas were colonized by some folks coming through an ice-free corridor from Alaska through Canada into North and South America around 13,500 years ago. That's what most high school textbooks say. That ice-free corridor wasn't open until 14,000 years ago. The site is 500 years older than that, and in Florida, which is by any stretch of the imagination, kitty corner across the continent from Alaska. So it means that we really have to re-examine how and when the Americas were colonized.
So this is on its face fascinating, but when I look at the pictures and the images here, it's underwater.
Yes.
It's some underwater sinkhole. Is that what we're looking at here?
Yes, it's a sinkhole in the bottom of the Osceola River. The people weren't, however, scuba diving 14,500 years ago. This was a site that would have been an isolated pond about 130 miles from the coast at the time people were here 14,500 years ago, because sea levels were almost 300 feet lower then, and Florida was nearly twice as big.
Okay, so we're just learning of this this morning. As a non-archaeologist, I'm excited about this, but tell me, having discovered this, what you felt, what went through your mind when you realized the implications of this discovery.
Oh, it was so exciting. Though, to be fair, we were building on research done by a number of archaeologists in the 80s and 90s who had already done some excavations at the sinkhole. They found a tusk with human-made, they said, cut marks, but it wasn't widely accepted by the archaeological community. So we were actually there to reevaluate their claims. And so finding the stone knife that we discovered really showed that they had been correct. The stone knife, there's absolutely no way that could be made by nature. Whereas some people had proposed that the marks on the cuts could have been caused by elephants. And by elephants, I mean mastodons stomping around on the tusk later on. And our knife showed that there's no way that wasn't done by people. So it wasn't that we lucked into this layer. We were really building on some previous research. But that being said, I don't think any of us slept the night that we found the biface. Everybody was very, very, very excited. And it's been so rewarding to get to work in that sink and find these things.
Well, I imagine you all were very excited. Assistant professor at University of Florida State University. Let me get that right. Florida State University, because you can't mess those two up. Can't conflate those. Professor Jesse Holligan, thanks so much for sharing the information, the discovery, and the excitement with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Again, more and new information is coming out. So, for those of you in Jersey, I will be over in Jersey Saturday afternoon or early evening for a lunch and discussion of Black women in history at Miss Wanda's Soul Food in Bayonne, New Jersey. That's Miss Wanda's Soul Food in Bayonne, New Jersey, Saturday, 4 p.m. So if you're in the area, come through, pull up, get something good to eat, and get some good history while you're at it. Love y'all. See you next week. We are out. Good night.
On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight, thorough black talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From Brother Tad to Sister K, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcy brings the heat, Brother Blythe keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Thursday nights the world will see Black Power media on a spree. Facebook, YouTube all aligned, breaking free from every bind. Social Social talk and politics. Every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true. For the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral life. Social talk and politics. Every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true. For the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves.